Hello, hello, hello. How are you, everyone? We are live. Okay, let's do that. All right. Great. We are, in fact, live. Let's get this up and running now. Woo. And we are going to do neither of those for now. We'll get rid of this as well. No, it is not made for kids. Save that. All right. So let's pull this up. So today, doop, good evening. I hope you're doing well. I'm about to share the stream. So just give me a second, folks. Just give me a second. Just give me a second. I didn't see anyone else streaming right now, so I figured this would be a good time to do it today. Because I got I'm gonna tag Celestium. All right. All right, all right, all right. The hiatus. I've just been busy. I'm straight up. It's Lunar New Year. I've been out. Alex is streaming. Oh shoot, he is streaming. It's the Lunar New Year, so I've been at my in-laws, and then we are moving this weekend. So the official move date is this weekend. So we're gonna be like just freaking insanely busy, and so I just haven't had the time to stream, guys. But that being said, that is not going to stop me from doing it here anyways. So I appreciate you all coming in. I know you guys have a choice between, other streamers. There's never a good opportunity to stream. Because really the only time you guys are awake. Oh shoot, he is live. He's doing a debate. I'm looking at Soren. He just used my argument. He used my argument. So, all right. He just used my argument, so I was just giddy for a second. All right, so we're gonna do something that I normally wouldn't do, but I feel like it's necessary because it's good to sharpen each other. It's good to sharpen each other. So we're gonna start with this today. Well, actually, you know what? Let me remove that. Hold on. Stops the screen share. Screen share. Share screen. Window. Then this one, and we're gonna share the audio. There we go. Got it. All right. I don't know how long Alex is planning on going. I don't know how long I'm going to be going today. It's kind of play it by ear. So I might even call in to Soren if you guys feel like it'd be worthwhile for me to call in. Of course, I wouldn't be able to pay attention to chat, but I can do that. That's up to the chat. That's up to the chat. So, all right. So today, adding to stage, we're going to be going over this. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this super well, but it should be good enough. I think, yes, that one works. So right here, we see here, nah, that doesn't work. We'll keep it this way. Bryce J had a thought. Now, I'm not disputing the claim here. So to be clear, I'm not disputing the claim. My entire argument here is that this is a fallacy. So what did Bryce say? Bryce said, hey, any Orthodox Christian who thinks St. Augustine taught the Filioque, well, he did teach at least a version of the Filioque. Give me a single father, St. Photius, 800 AD to 1900 AD, that believed St. Augustine taught it. If you can't, you concede you hold a liberal position. That doesn't follow, Bryce. That does not follow, Bryce. Okay? It does not follow necessarily that because this time period doesn't have any overt critiques of St. Augustine, as if that matters, that it means that he didn't teach it, okay? One, that's an argument from silence, if my memory is serving. It could be another type of argument, but it's essentially like it's saying, oh, we don't find anybody overtly critiquing his position here, so that must mean that St. Augustine didn't teach it. That doesn't follow. Now, I've seen good arguments from both sides. I've seen good arguments from Craig Truglia, who is convinced that St. Augustine taught an orthodox understanding of the Filioque. And I've seen other people say, nah, he was clearly influenced by Neoplatonism, and his view logically leads to this position, even if he was inconsistent about it, right? So I've seen people argue both sides, but I've never seen anyone say it's super overt, but it's definitely not super clear. Sorry about that. So the first thing that I want to point out is that it seems like to be an argument assignment, but the number one that I said here is the teaching means they were advocating for this position publicly in such a way that it'd be noticed and condemned. So in order for someone saying St. Augustine taught it, you'd have to say St. Augustine was publicly coming out and saying, this is the Orthodox Church's position on XYZ, or this is the Church's position on the Filioque. But I don't remember any of his writings that were publicly taught. We're not talking about private letters to people that were exchanged between two persons where they were doing some speculation or some back and forth. We're not talking about that. We're talking about publicly available teaching, things that he said from the pulpit, homilies, things of that nature. Okay, that's a very different thing than just private like speculation or theological speculating. We'll just say that speculating about theology in their spare time in letters to themselves or diaries and things of that nature. So that's the first thing that needs to be understood. The second thing is the church is theanthropic. I mean, this is 101 stuff, Bryce. Like, Bryce, with all due respect, the church is theanthropic. We aren't arbitrarily defined, and this is what I say here, by a set period of saints. Why is he arbitrarily limiting it to 800 AD and 1900 AD? The modern saints count, and the living church alive today, the bishops alive today, count just as much as any other era of saints. The church is theanthropic. We don't play this sort of I'm losing the words for it. Chronological snobbery. All right, we're not chronological snobs. We don't think, oh, because it's not old enough, it doesn't count the same. That's not how we think in the Orthodox Church. And three, it's kind of irrelevant. Who cares if St. Augustine taught it or didn't teach it? Like this this constant need, anti-Quarnism? Maybe. Let me see. This damn mouse. I'm getting a new mouse, by the way. I do have it on order. So I did order a new mouse, by the way, Puffer. Thank you for that. Damn. So anti-Quarnism. Yeah. I think that is the correct way. So then, and then I just said maybe I'm missing something, as it's been years since I've read a good chunk of St. Augustine's work, but there's clearly filioque, but the debate has always been about what he meant by that. I've seen both sides reasonably argue their positions, and then I just tagged Father Ananias and Craig Truglia just to check me if I'm missing something here. I mean, they're always very good sources, and they probably are from slightly, I wouldn't say opposing, but slightly different takes on this matter. And so, yeah, that's what I said there. We're going to go to the bookmarks because I think I have a couple things that I want to address. Okay, Nick Fuentes with his recent stuff. That was interesting. I think this will be fun, and it could get me in trouble with the Groypers. I don't care! So this is exactly the reason I don't take much of what the Groypers say very seriously. Listen to this nonsense.
Vote. Do not vote in the midterms. The Republicans have to lose. They have to lose. They have to crash and burn. A cleansing fire is the only thing that will save us. It cannot be fixed. Fuck them.
So first problem here, from a basic geopolitical or a basic political standpoint, even though I am not a democracy lover myself, I am not a big fan of democracy. I think democracy sucks generally. We have mechanisms in this system to replace bad senators. Where were you during this last primary season? Where were you encouraging your followers to run against these people? Where were you? Where were the candidates that were seeking to try and replace some of these goobers? You've had since 2016, okay? Since 2016, since 2020, or 2018, 2020, 2022, 2024, and then 2026. You have had 6 election cycles for House and Senate. 6! And what have you guys done with it? Have you ran any people that are actually meaningful? Oh, but Trump is supporting. Trump is not interested in primarying people that are going to vote for him consistently. You got to trust with what you got rather than unknown factors. Trump is getting burned by Massey and Rand. He doesn't want a bunch more Masseys and Rands because they're not. There's no consistency with them. At least with Republican in name only and neocons and the others, they're predictable. You know exactly what they need and what things to push and pull in order to get them to vote for you. Okay, so it just doesn't follow. This doesn't work. And in practice, you hand the country over to the Democrats, they never lose again. They never lose again. They'll flood the country with illegal immigrants. They will count them in the census. They'll give them the ability to vote. Even red states will not be safe. Even red states will be flooded. A lot of people will be going to jail. A lot of people will be going to jail for even the most minor of offenses. The school systems will become so completely corrupt and radicalized that your children, if they don't affirm transgenderism, can be removed from your home. That's already happening in Washington, by the way. This right here is what why does it do this? Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay. So this doesn't follow. This doesn't work. Oh, Lord. This is why.
Fuck Trump. Fuck MAGA. Fuck all this stuff. It can't be fixed. If it could have been fixed, it would have been fixed in 2024.
What did you do about it? You didn't try and primary any of the elected representatives that are stalling the Trump people. Instead, you tried not telling your voters not to vote for Trump and instead vote for Kamala. Are you insane? Are these people insane? Do they not know what it's like? Oh, that's because Nick Fuentes doesn't have to live with the consequences of his own actions. He's rich enough. If Nick Fuentes wanted to, he can F off to any country in the world, and his streamers and his simps will feed him and funnel him money while he talks from Bahamas or some bullshit. With all that stuff. He can F off to Thailand if he wanted to. He can F off to Cambodia, get a decent internet connection, live like a king, and he'll never have to work another day in his life. He doesn't have to live with the consequences of this. Fuentes, for the most canceled man in America, the quote-unquote most canceled man in America, or whatever he always tried to peddle with his simpy followers, he's always had the ability to make ends meet and make a business, to live, to pay his bills. Let's see if this is oh, it is good. Okay. I need to live like that, looking like the people. Well, then go to Eastern Europe. The point is that the point is that Fuentes has the means. Fuentes can F off to these other. He could run to Russia if he wanted, and he would not be prosecuted. As long as he didn't talk smack about Putin or bullshit like that, he could criticize American politics all day long from the basement of Moscow, live like a king, and never have to worry about anything ever again. He can do that. There's plenty of people that would still tune into him, even though he would cowardly run. There's plenty of people that do that. Meanwhile, you and your family got to live with that bullshit. Don't vote! Don't vote! To what end?
But it wasn't. They made every mistake. Liberation Day disaster. Doge disaster. Big Beautiful Bill.
Okay. We're going to go over these one at a time because he doesn't know what he's talking about. Clearly, he just listens to Twitter and just takes like Twitter memes, and that's how he like analyzes politics. Let's listen.
Liberation Day disaster. Been fixed in 2025, but it wasn't. They made every mistake. Liberation Day disaster.
Liberation Day a disaster. You mean the president finally takes the other countries by the balls and says, if you don't do what I'm asking for trade, I'm going to tariff the shit out of you? That's been a phenomenal success. Costs have dropped. Rent prices are at all-time historic lows on average. Not saying for everybody. Grocery prices are down. Fuel prices are down. All across the board. The only places that are still seeing net increases to electric costs are blue states. So move out of a blue. I mean, at the end of the day, your blue states are blue state. What are you going to do about it? There's only so much Trump can do. I have family that live in the States, both in Minnesota and in Florida. The Minnesota family members in a blue state are complaining about prices going up. The members in red states are like, dude, life is good right now. It's going great. My parents are about to open a new business because my dad lost his job because in Minnesota, where this company is headquartered, they just outsourced all of their jobs to India. Now, I wish Trump would intercede on that, but it's a very difficult task to do so. You need to get Congress to back you. He can't just be going arbitrarily punishing businesses, but I wish he would. I wish he would be Caesar. I wish Trump would be far better. I have criticisms of Trump, but to say that, like, oh, this was a disaster, he doesn't know what he's talking about. This is economics 101 stuff. We've been begging for tariffs for decades. We've been captured by libertarian retards for the longest time. Our economy has been trapped by liberals and economically illiterate libertarians for decades. And we finally get tariffs back, and we're starting to see the benefits. Typical Gen D, sit down on a gamer chair in front of a webcam to stream is working on politics. I know, it's ridiculous. Halftime, it feels like he's running interference for the Dems to drive stupid right-wingers away from the base. I know, it's just ridiculous. Is Fuentes an accelerationist? Fuentes is whatever Fuentes needs to be to get his audience to click on his stream and send him donations. Like, I'm going to be super real about it, guys. Fuentes is whatever he needs to be in the moment. One moment he's like, yes, we won! 2024, Trump wins, even though Fuentes told people not to vote for Trump and that they should vote against Trump and that they should protest against Trump to force him more right-wing, allegedly is what his argument was. And then the next moment, he's cheering as if he was a part of some great victory when Trump won. He wants it both ways. He's inconsistent as hell. Again, my StreamYard is not updating in real time. It's kind of fallen behind a bit, guys. So if I'm not responding immediately, we need our Rupert Lowell. You know, I have a lot of confidence in JD Vance. Actually, I think JD Vance is. I think he'll be decent.
Doge disaster.
Doge has not been a disaster. So again, if you look up anything, Doge is you can follow the Doge accounts. This is what doesn't make sense to me. Doge accounts are regularly saying, hey, we canceled the contract here. We canceled the contract there. We canceled this. Now, what they're complaining about is saying that Doge hasn't actually saved money. Well, part of the reason that is because you can't just cancel the money and then just let it go back into the American people's pockets. The money is canceled. It's not going out, but it still sits in the executive branch's coffers. It still sits in the government's coffers because it's already been allocated. This is, again, basic government stuff. Once the money's allocated, you can't take it back. Now, that's stupid. I wish they would change that. It's like, hey, if we have a surplus, it has to go back into the reserve, paying down the debt or whatever else. Like, however you want to do it, it has to pay down the debt. But by finding these contracts and canceling it, in the future, they won't have to pay it out. So in a future budget, and they haven't done a future budget, they've just done these reconciliation bills. I have criticisms of that. I think these reconciliation bills are retarded.
Big Beautiful Bill, disaster.
Okay, so Big Beautiful Bill, the one that made ICE's budget the size of the Marine Corps, the one that allowed us to hire, and starting this year, starting in January, all those new hires start going out onto the field because they had to do 6-7 months of training. Okay? All those people that have been hired are now flooding the streets. ICE is going to be ramping up deportations majorly. JD Vance has talked about this like a dozen times in the last 6 months. People kept on criticizing, why aren't the deportations higher? Oh, I don't know. It's maybe because ICE is dealing with a really low budget from Biden. And now, with the one big beautiful bill that was passed back in the summer of last year, now all of those things can start taking effect. The one big beautiful bill did all sorts of benefits. It actually decreased the amount of spending. Okay, it did. It's just a lot of that stuff doesn't take effect because it's a reconciliation bill. So people don't understand. People don't understand how money works or economy works or the government works. They're just stupid. It's all theater. If it's all theater, then who cares? If it's all theater, if it doesn't matter who wins, the Democrats or the Republicans, vote Democrat then. All theater. Give me a break. What's it going to take for you to come back to America? I mean, the country would have to be safe enough for me to raise my children in. And also, I mean, frankly, I just like Korea. So, I mean, why go back to, I don't have any meaningful connection to America anymore. My state is a complete shit show. My state's a complete shit show. I'm from Minnesota. That state has been, I mean, it's been in the news recently. Have you not seen that? You're checking out? Dude, I still vote and I'm in Korea. I go to the embassy every election and I vote, even though... Why? Just log off. Yeah, just let the country burn. Just let it burn. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, oh yeah, just let everything burn. Let it all go to the ground. Let all of your children and your family members and your extended family and the people that don't have the means to actually escape, let all of them suffer. Oh yeah, you're right. Absolutely do that. Yeah, you're so smart. Oh, so great. I'm so proud of you. Let it all burn to the ground. Instead of running for office yourself or trying to primary these people that are traitors in Congress, that are stymieing Trump's agenda, nah, just give up. You can try and primary people. Yeah, vote. The point is that checking out means when someone says checking out, what they mean is, oh, do what Fuentes is suggesting. I'm criticizing Fuentes' accelerationism, dude. I'm not criticizing people that just vote. I'm at least talking about the issues, and I'm trying to convince boomers and black pillars. You know, I'm trying to convince you guys that it's actually worth fighting for your children, you know? Like, I don't understand what you want.
Epstein Files, disaster.
Epstein Files is a mixed bag, as I've gone over on this channel. Some people are convinced that there's something there. I'm not really convinced that there's anything there that's going to lead to prosecutions. And I think that there's too much risk of fake data, fake things, unreliable sources, unreliable email exchanges, etc., that makes it impossible to come to any sort of meaningful conclusion on him. So,
Iran disaster.
What is he talking about? The Iran bombing, whether you like it or not, was remarkably effective and didn't get us bogged down in a long-term engagement. Like what? Like that is the dream. Like if we could have done that with Iraq, where we just surgically strike Iraq and get them to stop invading Kuwait and leave Iraq's primary infrastructure intact and their primary military intact, instead of getting bogged down in years and years and years in the Middle East, who wouldn't take that? Dude, I agree with Jay, but Jay agrees with me. He doesn't think that there's anything there that's prosecutable. His analysis is talking about how the elites have been talking about these things for a long time, that a lot of these code words and things like that. But code words will not lead to prosecutions, believe it or not, unless there's an email. Unless there's an email that says explicitly, guys, if I say pizza, it means this. If I say cheeseburger, it means this. Otherwise, it's reasonable doubt. I'm just talking about pizza there. Yeah, it's a little weird, but we always do that. That's all they have to say, and they get out of it. So what do you want about it, right? That's my argument. My argument is like, you guys are being led by the nose, and Jay agrees with this, by the way. He agrees with Andrew Wilson. Have you not seen what Andrew Wilson has been posting about in politics? The Democrats want you outraged constantly about Epstein, rather than focusing on the fact that most of the people in the Epstein files are Democrat, and that it ended up being mostly a nothing burger. There was a couple people in there that we already knew were creeps, who were confirmed to be creeps and pedos. Like people that we already knew were bad people turned out to be bad people. Like we all knew it. So was there any new revelation other than confirming things we already knew? That's why Jay is so popular right now, because Jay called it.
The personnel: Mike Waltz, disaster. Ratcliffe, disaster. Rubio, disaster. Pam Bondi.
Okay. Can anybody reasonably argue?
Disaster. Ratcliffe, disaster. Rubio, disaster. The personnel: Mike Waltz, disaster.
Okay, Mike Waltz, a minor person who wasn't even a cabinet member.
Disaster.
Radcliffe, mixed bag.
Rubio, disaster.
Rubio, by any metric, has been a phenomenal Secretary of State. Phenomenal. How can anyone say he hasn't been? Oh, because of Venezuela? Who gives a shit? That's us exerting our power in our own hemisphere. That's what we should have been doing for the last 30 years rather than going gallivanting around in the Middle East.
Pam Bondi, disaster.
Pam Bondi's mixed bag, but a lot of people just don't understand how the legal system works, and they don't understand how much work it is to manage all of these Supreme Court cases that she's the one that she's the go-to for all of those. She has to be the one that manages all of that. And then you want her to get bogged down in the Epstein stuff. Just seems completely ridiculous.
All self-inflicted. Trump personnel, Trump policy, Trump strategy, Trump playbook. We tried it your way. It didn't work. Fuck you.
What did we try for you, Fuentes? What have you accomplished in politics? Fuentes sits there, again, as Pufferfish says, he sits there and streams to an audience and doesn't have to live with the consequences of any of his political actions. Again, if Fuentes, if shit hits the fan in America, Fuentes can be on the next flight out of America to whatever country he wants to go to. He can get a visa like that in some third world country and live like a king. He can stream all day long from that country. He'll have good internet. He'll get Starlink. The whole works. He doesn't have to live with it. He has no skin in the game. He's not married. He doesn't have kids. He doesn't have any of that bullshit. He doesn't have nothing. He has no skin in the game. Do you think he thinks about his family? Oh, yeah. No, because his family, he could have them come with him if things got really that bad. He could have them fly out to him. They could all live like kings. They don't have to live with the consequences of their actions. Saying, Crypto says, it's not a nothing burger. But in the files, it's always in the files that they didn't release. Oh, guys, there's still 10 files they didn't release. So that means that there's something there. There's something there. But it's in the files they didn't release. Where? How do you know? You don't know. You're talking out of your ass. Everyone, Schoolboy NQ is having a debate with Anthony Stafford on if water baptism is regenerative. Starts in an hour on the YouTube channel. I don't know. It's not even worth. In my opinion, it's just a debate. It's a really, really low level debate. I'm going to be super clear with you, Profound Being. That is incredibly dumb of you to say. Voting is useless. Different puppets, same puppeteers. You're saying that your quality of life is going to be the same under Biden as Trump? Your quality of life. The prosecutions, transgenderism being pushed on a federal level, taxes higher, cost of living higher, managed decline of the empire, the whole works. And that makes any sense, brother. Sorry. You guys are out of your mind if you think that makes sense. I'm not saying politics are going to save you. Oh my gosh. Who said politics are going to save you? I'm using politics as a means to try and effectuate as much change as possible. So we're going to do this real quick. Hold on, guys. Pin message. All right. So we're going to finish this.
Now we don't vote. That's the message. Seriously. Can't blame anybody else. Bad advice, bad advisors, Biden's economy. Enough already. It didn't work. We're not voting. I'm staying home. And you know what? I hope the Democrats impeach him. I hope the Democrats impeach all of them. I hope they indict everybody. I hope they depose and compel the release of documents. And I hope they find all the criminal behavior. And I hope it destroys the GOP. I hope it creates a...
What a freaking retard. This is the guy that people listen to for politics. This is why we have a generation of retards in the right.
Crisis for the GOP so severe that they never recover. And then I hope we get a fucking Nazi to run in 28.
How is that going? Calm down. How is that going to work, Fuentes, when you are demographically completely replaced when the next administration comes in and they pass all the necessary laws that make white people white people are going to wake up and become Nazis and they're going to take over the country? How is that going to work when you can't win any elections? You don't have the means. You don't have control of the military. You don't have any people in a position of power. You know why the Nazis were able to take over? They had people in positions of power that were able to influence the government. And then they took the institutions over. How are you going to do that when you're a minority? The Germans were a majority in Germany. This isn't Germany. This isn't 1940s Germany. This isn't 1930s Germany. This isn't the Weimar Republic where the Germans were just completely disillusioned with everything going on in Germany. This is America where white people, the people that you keep on claiming are the savior of everything, don't exist anymore. They're going to be a minority, dude. They all, even if we somehow fix the birth rates. Let's try it. We fix white people birth rates. We're still getting outbred. And we're still being mass imported. Is that your solution? Seriously? Talk about a retard. Yeah, sorry guys, I want to pull up some of the comments on the StreamYard, but again, the StreamYard is just super delayed today. I do not know what's going on. It gets like this sometimes where it gets all hung up. It gets all sorts of hung up, and I'm not exactly sure why. All right.
And I mean that metaphorically. I don't mean that literally. I hope we get a fucking fascist to run in 28 to burn the GOP down as a dark horse and win the presidency as a right-wing radical.
How? The institutions would not allow it once the Democrats win, idiot. The only way you are going to get your radical far-right person is by slowly recapturing the institutions, and that starts with Vance. Trump is a good start, but Vance is far more radical and far more consistent on these issues. People say, oh, Palantir. Dude, I have connections to DoD contractors and bigger companies than Palantir. You guys are distracted by the smallest light. Peter Thiel. This is why most people shouldn't vote. This is why most people should just be peasants in a field working. Palantir! Dog! Distractions. Guys, you guys really have no idea half of the DoD contractors and the information they have access to and the power they have. You have no idea. Guess what? A lot of those DoD contractors are losing a lot of influence under Hegseth. Oh, but that doesn't count because Trump. What? By the way, Peter Thiel didn't back Vance. Peter Thiel didn't want Vance as the vice president. He didn't like Vance. Oh, but he was a protege of Peter Thiel. He had a loose connection to Peter Thiel, and so now he's a protege. Okay, got it. Yeah, so stupid. No one's worshiping. Oh my gosh, crypto. Like, I just don't have this. I don't have the patience for you. If you're not gonna, I'm gonna give you a chance. You can call in and make your argument and say what you want to say on stream, or I'll just remove your comments from chat because you're not being useful at all.
That is my hope. That is my playbook.
Your playbook is to do nothing and hope magically that the 40% of white people, because that's where we're headed to about being a plurality in this country, 40% of white people will magically just unify and take over a country of 300 million people. Are you stupid? Are you stupid, Fuentes? Are you literally dumb? I think so. I think Fuentes is not as smart as people. Oh, Dugan. The left needs to ditch woke ideology, DEI, uncontrolled migration, progressism, and atheism. Wow! So, Dugan! Listen, I like Dugan in a lot of ways, but this is some of the most retarded shit I've ever seen from Dugan, okay? It's absolutely stupid. So, you mean they wouldn't be left-wing anymore? Oh, the left, if the left can just get rid of woke ideology, DEI, uncontrolled migration, progressivism, and atheism, then they're like, then everything would be better. No shit. Wow, brilliant political scholar there, guys. Brilliant. Absolutely mind-blowing. I'm totally convinced that Duganism is going to work in America. What? Holy crap. Can you imagine being so stupid? Alex Soren, thank you for the raid, brother. Wow. A bunch of people coming in. Sorry, guys, I cannot pull up chats. We also are doing an open call-in. And I'm just talking about anything that was on my timeline today. So if any of you guys have recommendations for things to react to, we will do so. The right needs to drop. Ayn Rand capitalism, racism, individualism, anti-socialism. Wow, Dugan, you're so smart. You're so smart, Dugan. Wow, how did I... Racism, individualism, capitalism, bad. Ayn Rand. Okay, I agree with Ayn Rand. She's retarded. She's a libertarian, though, not really right-wing. Libertarianism is not right-wing. I hope you realize that, Dugan. Anti-socialism. I'm not a socialist. I think socialism kind of sucks. It doesn't really work. And calling it socialism, calling certain policies and saying every time this policy exists is immediately socialist is retarded too. The right needs to abandon that. So, add to stage. Paisios.
What's up, Nikolai? I'm having a great day because it's my birthday today.
Happy birthday, everybody. W's in the chat for the birthday. W's in the chat for the birthday.
Yeah, I just want to tell you that the greatest news today is that it's my birthday today.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm crashing out about how like my mind is blowing up, guys. It's blowing up. Dugan, the most like amazing. If the left just stops doing things the left does, it abandons atheism and all this other stuff, then it's no longer the left. What? And the right, racism, individualism. Did he take this out of like? Did he pull this out of his butt from the Antifa? Did he read the Antifa playbook and just say, "Oh, the right's filled with racists, individualists, and anti-socialists"? Great, I agree. Individualism is libertarianism, and Ryan is libertarianism. Anti-socialism, okay, fine, fair enough, but like define socialist for me. And then capitalism. I actually kind of like capitalism. Most of the world likes capitalism. China likes capitalism. Believe it or not, China, the big bad boogeyman communist, they're capitalist. So, call in if you think voting is useless. Call in if you think voting is useless. So true, guys. Call in. The stream is linked above. Have you seen this Suan Suna video defending Originism? Says Rusty. Yes, I have. And again, it's the same dumb crap that we've been dealing with the Latins for the better part of forever. I don't know why anyone is shocked by that. Dude, Nestorius is a saint in their church. That's all that needs to be said. That's all that needs to be said. So, thank you, Alex, for the raid. I appreciate it. God bless you all. If there's anything you guys want me to react to, send me a message in the chat and just give me the title of the video and we will type it in on YouTube, okay? Let's see here. So yeah, Dugan with the mind-blowing like, guys, 1,000 people actually liked this and 339 shared this. Like, people thought this was blowing their minds, bro. This is just like, this is just mind-blowing. And then he goes on to say this: true leftists. What's a true leftist, Dugan? If you remove all of this, what's a leftist? Define it, please. And a true right-winger has one enemy. His name is Jeffrey Epstein. Oh! Oh my gosh, guys, I'm so... He mentioned Epstein. That must mean that everything is just true. Oh, the whole world is run by Epstein. He was the most powerful man in existence. All right, so that's me crashing out about Dugan's retardation. So let's move on. My gosh, I cannot believe how stupid these... Okay, 5 solas. 5 solas. Works and grace. Arbitrary division there. Doesn't define what he means by works and what he means by grace. Or some form of works plus XYZ. And then he lists... Notice orthodoxy's not here. It's right here. We're right here, guys. But it's grace and works synergized together. You wouldn't like that. This is super old, by the way. This is from Wretched. Wrecked Wretch. Yeah, great name, guys. We want to get our theology from a Wrecked... Is that Wrecked? Wrecked Wretch. He's very wretchful. Just like, it's seriously, guys, so low tier. I don't even know why anyone takes these. Like, why does anyone follow these people? You should just mute them. I have them muted, but it showed up on my timeline. I actually gotta mute them now. It showed up on my timeline because other people were sharing it. But it's just like, it's so low tier, guys. So low tier. It's so pathetic. Thank you, Octavian, for the $2. Whatever Korean coffee you want. Yeah, I might go to Mega Coffee today. I actually might be doing a walking stream here in about an hour, guy. Well, maybe 2 hours. In about 2 hours, I might be doing a walking stream because I need to get outside. It's a beautiful day out. Korea is starting to warm up very quickly. And again, my Streamlabs... my Streamlabs is this. My Streamlabs is not updating the comments again. Nikolai, but Alex Jones said you got to be aware of big bad China. I know. China is bad. China always bad. Big bad China. Be scared. Always be scared of the big bad boogeyman of communism. Communism is around the corner, guys. At any minute, the totalitarians are going to take over. Oh, really, Alex? Okay, great. Would Tsar Nicholas II be considered a totalitarian dictator from your view? What about Saint Constantine the Great or Saint Justinian the Great? Would he be a totalitarian dictator that guys, you know, we gotta oppose the totalitarians. That's the problem, is liberty and freedom, guys. Liberty and freedom. All right. Liberty and freedom. That is where we're gonna get to the promised land, folks. Did you go to Korea for the military? No. Well, yes and no. I originally went just on my own accord, met my wife, got married, and then I joined the military out of necessity because I had no way to make money. And then, you know, now I'm no longer in it. Twitter X walks the brain. I mean, yeah, to a degree. The idea that communism reflects Christian ethics is not very smart. It doesn't reflect Christian ethics, but it also isn't the big bad boogeyman of the entire world. Evil can exist in any system, guys. Okay? That's the lesson that we need to learn. They're burning it all, anarchism, anarchy, and libertarianism. Evil still persists. Yeah, I'll talk about that on my walking stream, Crypto. So if you want to watch that, I'll probably do a walk and talk stream later today. And you can catch up on that, and I'll answer questions like that. But that's normally my walk and talk streams is where people ask about Korea. Not that I'm not opposed to you asking them necessarily, but I don't want to get too sidetracked. Contemporary for $5. Get a pastry while you're getting some coffee or tea. Thank you very much. Appreciated it. Add to stage. Communism literally killed 60 to 100 million people in the last 100 years. Yes. No one denies that atheism does that. But communism has to be very carefully defined. If you mean a Marxist communist, sure. But China is not modern China. China as it exists today is not communist. So it's kind of irrelevant to my point.
Hello, Nikolai. Can I recommend a video?
Puffer just did, but what would you like? Here, hold on. Let me...
It's a video by Historic Legends on, it's called The Untold Story of Military Priests in the Ukraine War. It's about 50-something minutes. You don't need to watch the whole thing, but I thought it would be a good
yeah, I'm not
video.
going to do a long video this stream. If people want to do like maybe a shorter, like 20-minute thing, we can react to that. Or if someone wants to call in to debate whatever you guys want to debate, you can call in. I'm totally okay with that. Let us, you know what? Just for you, Puffer, because I know that this is a mockery of me, but we're gonna do it. We'll do it for Puffer.
Yeah, we both did. She went to college too.
I went to Normandale for about a year and a half.
Yeah, that's where we met.
But I dropped out though.
Yeah, she dropped.
Yeah.
So where are you girls from?
Chaska.
Le Sueur.
But I went to high school in White Bear Lake. Go Bears.
Okay. I want you to tell me what these fellas looked like.
Well, the little guy, he was kind of funny looking.
In what way?
I don't know, just funny looking.
Can you be any more specific?
I couldn't really say. He wasn't circling.
So I can't watch the whole thing here, guys, because I'll get flagged. But he is doing this in an effort to mock my accent. So, the Minnesotan accent, famously, yes, people did talk like that. People do talk like that in Minnesota, mostly in the northern part of the state now. A lot of the places close to the Twin Cities have kind of adopted a kind of normie, like a normie accent of Minnesota. It's very subtle. And in most people, if they're from the Twin Cities, they're going to sound very generic, like California cities style, kind of twang, with a slight Minnesotan like emphasis on certain vowels. But for the most part, most people have abandoned that accent. So, only reason I use X nowadays is for news and because some of my job requires it. So, all right, let's continue. There was a thing by Wes Huff. Well, we might as well cover this. I know it's already been covered by Cleve, but I think it's worthwhile to cover. Nikolai is once again vindicated, folks. I am once again vindicated. I am vindicated insofar that what did I say about Rome? What did I say? They don't care about what's happening in their church today. Notice that none of their apologists are addressing the altar girl problem. They find excuses for it. They hand wave it. They don't care about it. Or if they are upset about it, it's not important enough of an issue to even really be worth talking about. Meanwhile, their Pope has passively and implicitly endorsed altar servers, female altar servers. Oh, but it's not an official. Finding reasons to just ignore it. Absolutely insane, guys. Blowing my mind. Of course, all the people in the chat below, are just. Leroy says, quit making stuff up. Girls have been altar servers since 25 years ago. Thank you. We've been trying to tell the trads this for years. We've been trying to tell them for years that altar servers have been a thing. Like, wow, you're telling me the Orthodox were right and that Rome is modernizing and having all these modernist positions? Oh my gosh, I thought we were still based in trad medieval Rome, or based in trad first millennium Rome, or based in trad Vatican I Rome. You pick and choose your era of Rome, Roman papism that you want to adopt, and that's the one you get to adopt. It's a pick and choose your own system. If you want to venerate Nestorius, venerate Nestorius. You want to do XYZ thing, you do XYZ thing. There's no rules here. No rules. Everything goes. Origen's a saint. Origen is most definitely a saint. You know, it's just embarrassing at this point, guys. It's just embarrassing. So, since no one is recommending any Suana, what's his name again? I forget his name. Someone recommended it above. What's his name? Shoot, you guys are killing me here. Let me look. I joined the U.S. military. Yes, Crusader. Suan Sona. 5 days ago. Which was the one that they did recently where they defended Saint Nestorius? Saint Nestorius. It was relatively recent. He did who was the other guy in it? You guys will remember this. How do the Tradcasts put up with doing this to themselves? How long can they see this? See James Martin never be dealt with. See their own hierarchs never crack down on them, and they never leave. Yeah, that's because they don't care. The system. All that matters is that you submit to the Pope. No, I wasn't a retiree. I didn't retire from the military. Oh, this keeps me from Eastern. We can do Canon and Creed. He's kind of boring, though, because he's kind of stupid, frankly. He never did his part 3. He never did his part 3 on He never did his part 3, guys, on Father Josiah's Trenum Rock and Sand. I think it's because everyone was calling him out for using AI, because I think it actually was the case. When I was RC, they told us they allowed altar girls to encourage girls interested in being nuns. Looking at the feminist nun that Leo just promoted, it doesn't mean what we thought. Yeah, well, exactly. Click the link. So this is it.
Welcome to this episode of Intellectual Catholicism. Today, I'm here once again.
So that's another one that we can do later, guys, because that's a longer one. But
There's a way of talking about final judgment that sounds deeply spiritual, even merciful, where heaven and hell are not spoken of first as places, but as states of being. The same God and the same fire being experienced, only differently.
oh, good Lord. Guys, this is so melodramatic. It's so melodramatic, guys. Oh my Lord. By the way, please, anybody who wants to call in and just chill, you're more than welcome to chit chat. You don't have to disagree. You can just call in to just chill and ask questions. And this guy is Timo Harmony. So true. Christian Wagner video on doctrinal development being orthodox. No, he's retarded. I don't care about Christian Wagner. Sorry, not gonna respond to any more of that low tier slop from Christian Wagner. His last video was so bad that I responded to that I just couldn't even do it anymore.
And the problem for me isn't that I don't understand that explanation. It's what happens to judgment when you accept it.
Ooh, it's what happens when you
Now,
accept
before I
it.
explain why I can't accept
Dude, AI scripting. This is so AI, dude. Oh my Lord. Guys, I work with AI on a day-to-day basis. That's a little too quick. I work with AI daily. Daily. I use it all the time. I know what AI scripting sounds like. This is 100% AI scripted. He provides the quotes, provides what he wants to object to, gives his position and his like orientation, so he's like a confessional Lutheran or confessional Protestant, gives another quote that he maybe used AI to generate in the first place, and then uses that to create and craft a script. Yeah, Wagner can sit there and stream for 7 hours trying to prove the filioque, blah 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 blah. It's just boring nonsense. I know I started testing out AI. It's become obvious when I hear AI scripts. Yep. Especially, you know what's worse is that if you use AI long enough, you can catch the patterns that they use in the scripting, and you could easily edit it to make it sound much more human, much more dynamic, much more the way you would speak. But it just shows that he didn't even do the basics to try and like improve, right? He didn't even do that. Thank you. It's not thing, it's other thing. Yes. It's very AI, very it's very much the way that they go and approach those things. Now, I'm not saying every time someone uses it, but AI uses that constantly. And so if you see it consistently, you should watch. You want to know what, NPC? We might do some Professor Dave stuff later. We might do some Professor Dave stuff later. What's up?
How you doing?
Not much. Just I was getting ready to respond to very low tier slop from Canon and Creed, but
Yeah,
you
I'm a catechumen of Orthodoxy, and a lot of these like Protestant videos, like I'd watch the Jay Dyer debates, and no Protestant could ever answer like the canon questions. I found that like a lot of these things that these Protestants were saying were like, well, the fathers, you could pluck Irenaeus down from heaven, and he would be able to respond to all these heresies, because these were things that were spreading around like Gnosticism and Nestorianism, and they're just variations of that as part of the thing that pushed me away from it. And it was also just like it was so shallow. Like there's no spirituality in the Protestant churches.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up Reformed, so I attended Lutheran churches as well growing up. Mostly my grandparents were Lutheran. My mom, so on my dad's side they were Lutheran, confessional Lutherans, and on my mom's side they were like charismatic Pentecostals. So you couldn't get more different, like especially in Minnesota, like because Minnesota's a very Lutheran heavy state, very Lutheran heavy state, because a lot of our ancestry is Swedish, Norwegian, and German, so very Lutheran, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember very distinctly going to those services and going, oh my gosh, like there was no, it was very, very dry, just, and most of the time the sermon was just terrible. But the Pentecostal, my mom went to, and she was like, oh, she didn't want to go back to that because, you know, everyone knows how they can be. She's like, I don't want to go back to that. So my parents kind of decided to go right down the middle. They're like, we're going to choose something that's kind of in the middle. And so they went more the Reformed, evangelical, Reformed Baptist kind of path. So that's what I grew up with.
Yeah, no, I have a completely secular background. So my dad was baptized as a Catholic as an infant.
Yeah.
But he never went to church. And my mom's
Okay.
and my mom's a secular Jew. And my grandmother was too. But they never really followed the faith. Like the last time, I mean, she passed last month, you know, may her memory be eternal. But like I would visit her, and she would be okay with me. Like she wouldn't let me put butter on her steak, but she would like have me make her pork ribs. Yeah. So she wasn't really like a
So she was a Jew in name only.
Yeah, basically. And my mom, like even less so. Like we would like the menorah on Hanukkah. We'd celebrate Christmas as like giving gifts to each other. But I was a Boy Scout. I went to like maybe one Methodist service because we met in a Methodist church.
Fair enough.
Went to like one like Catholic mass when I was at like Boy Scout camp, and I got made fun of for like not, you know, believing, but it never really went more than that. But it was only like recently, in the past, like it was sometime like in 24 when I just, you know, it just came to me, that like Jesus is a real person. And then it just came to like, what does it really mean to be a Christian? And then I found Orthodoxy, you know, like Patricia
God bless you.
Jay Dyer. Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle. Like,
no, it's not easy.
yeah, because you come out of this like very comfortable materialistic way of thinking, and then the thinking like, you know, you're an eternal being. What you do has eternal consequences, and it's hard to accept that. I mean, this is, you know, what Jesus says in the scripture all the time. Like, this is a hard teaching. He can accept it. And it's not just like the specific thing that he's saying. Like when he's talking about that, like with marriage or whatever. It's just like the gospel in general. Like it's the rewards are great, but the consequences are as well. You know, and that's my understanding. So I would take everything I say with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it's a long process. I mean, I was a catechumen for 3 years, so you know, take your time. There's no, I always tell people this: Orthodoxy is not in a rush, which again kind of goes in contrast with what a lot of people believe. Whereas like there's this like, I'm on the clock. My salvation is on the clock. If I don't get into the thing, if I don't step into the thing, I'm screwed, right? Like, and that's no Orthodox bishop or clergy would ever tell you that, right? It's like calm down, take your time. And that's exactly the opposite. You would handle that if you believed this sort of like end all be all kind of fatalistic only like this robotic faith, right? And Orthodoxy is a very dynamic faith, and that so it takes time to indwell it, to live it, to learn about it, and move forward in it, right? So that's definitely there. But is there anything specifically you wanted to address, or are you just here to chill? That's fine too.
Yeah, no, I was just here to chill because I watched some of your content.
Hey, God bless you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just figured I'd pop in for a little bit and just
yeah,
say
no
hello.
problem. Well, feel free to sit back in the background. We're just going to listen to this for a little bit, and then if once I start responding, if there's anything that you want to bring up, that's more than welcome. Or if you have any questions or something completely off topic, feel free. I'm not a particularly I don't plan out my streams. I just kind of go. I wing it. So
I live stream all the time. I never do. And I'm supposed to talk about specific things because you know I do like the comic book stuff and I go on random tangents all the time.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. So, all right, let's get into this then. Let's see what Canon has to say
that
here.
Explanation. I do want to set the stage for this video. This is not
I don't know if you heard my entire rant about the AI, but this is so clearly AI scripted. It's like crazy.
I use AI to like copy edit my stuff, and it's good for that.
I have no problem with using AI to improve your workflow, but when you allow AI to like literally make an entire script for you, it's just you can't see past it. Even if the arguments are solid and foundationally good, which they often aren't, because if you are familiar with my previous responses to Cannon, maybe two months ago, when he releases a basically slander against Josiah Trenham, Father Josiah Trenham, it was bad. So it was clear that he made a lot of those arguments straight from it's very clear that he used that. Someone says here, I think Cannon and Creed use AI for even his video processing. Could be. I don't know. A lot of this stuff, his thumbnails are clearly AI. He sends them through like this AI filter, with a very specific prompt, because he has this weird glossy look to him.
not me reacting to a clip or a screenshot from online. I've spent real time listening to Eastern Orthodox bishops, saints, and apologists explain this in their own words, some of which we're going to look at. And I get why it's persuasive. I share a lot of the instincts
So
behind it.
hold on,
So-
real quick. We're gonna look at he goes over Bishop Callistos Ware, who by the way is one bishop. So I don't know. Like, can you go to our canons? Like, this is what's really annoying. Is like, don't get me wrong. I might fully agree with what Callistos Ware is saying. It's just like, why are you going to one bishop who is not even like the biggest name theologian of the modern Orthodox era? You could go to someone like Father Seraphim Rose, is far more influential than Bishop Callistos Ware. We could go to living bishops who are preaching these things and talking about these things. Well, go to our like living scholars, then go to some like previous scholar, then go. Father Peter Tiers talks about that. You start with the most recent saints and you work your way backwards is sometimes the best way to do it. Now, other people come into Orthodoxy by starting with the latest. I'm going to look at the very earliest of saints and then work my way towards it. But the problem with doing it that way is it puts a lot of pressure on you to interpret what those previous saints were saying. Whereas if you start with the earliest saints, you have contemporaries who are still alive who knew them, and you work your way backwards and you can know what these people mean by certain things because they are speaking in a dialect and in a way of thought that is more closer to your way of thinking and thought. So that's something that I think is always really good. Someone said you look like Eric Ybarra.
No. People say like I have like the look of like a monk because like I have the beard. I grow that out. But no, I mean I kind of know who Ybarra is, but I'm not Eric Ybarra. But yeah, the whole thing that people like the biggest polemic with the Orthodox church is saying like, oh well, this person said that this is your patriarch. This is like the Pope respecter thing. Is that like, oh, this patriarch said this, that's in agreement with the Catholic Church, and if you disagree with it, then you're like a Protestant. And it's a whole like it's a fundamental misunderstanding of the Orthodox ecclesiology that will conciliar. And this is how we're
theanthropic, conciliar and theanthropic.
Yeah, and this is how the Apostolic Church was, because in Acts 15, the Council of Jerusalem, it's resided over by James, who's the Bishop of Jerusalem, not Peter. Like it should have been Peter if the Catholic worldview is correct. Is one of the things that like
I think that's a really basic polemic that just always gets hand waved away. I just don't understand how anyone can think of it any other way. But it is what it is. The big thing here that I always try and hammer home is that most of the time they're misinterpreting our patriarchs, even when they try and use them against us. The Orthodox way of thinking is just so foundationally different for a lot of these people. So
it's important, especially for Protestants, to understand that Eastern Orthodox theology doesn't usually begin by asking where heaven and hell are. It actually begins by asking how God is encountered, which is...
So let me ask you a question. This is a good way that somebody helped me understand it. And I don't know if this is 100% correct, so I'm open to correction from clergy, but it really helped me kind of conceptualize this a bit. Is Florida and New York in the same place?
No, people. It's inhabited by the same type of people in a lot of ways.
Well, no, I'm
Yeah.
asking like
Oh,
in
yeah.
terms of like strictly geography.
Oh
Is
yeah, no,
Florida
definitely
and
not.
well, so yeah, you could say though that they are in the same place if you're talking about America, right?
Yeah.
If you're talking about the whole of America, then yes, they are both in America, right? So they are the same place in one sense, but in another sense, they are diametrically completely different. You know, different seasons, different experiences of life, different experiences of the same thing. They experience the same sun, the same moon, you know, all of that stuff, but very, very dynamically opposed. So in a way, someone could view heaven and hell as a different place, but at the same time, the experience is from the same source, right? I think that's the most important thing to remember here. But hold on.
Yeah. No, I
Somebody super chatted. So real quick, $5 from Arakota. Opinion on Metropolitan John Zeolius and his book Being and Communion. If either of you have read it, I have not read it.
I haven't
And
either.
no,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, best. I mean, one of the best books I've read on the Incarnation by Athanasius. That's a good one. I've
Yeah.
got a bunch of those. But yeah, no, the patristic witness, from my knowledge, is that like the lake of fire is just the presence of God, and if you're a sinner, you're unrepentant. When you're in the presence of God, it's going to be disgusting to you because you spent your mortal life disaligning
Hating God.
yourself.
Well,
Yeah.
you hate God. So some of the church fathers talk about as anti-theosis, right? So they're experiencing theosis, but it's like they don't want anything to do with God, so they're running away as fast as they can away from God, but God is always there, right? And they have that knowledge of God always being there, sustaining them. So that's one of the things that always gets people a little bit tripped up, is that they
Yeah.
tend to think of it as oh, you're cast into the lake of fire and that's it, you're done. So we don't believe in annihilationism, right, guys? So we're not believing that there's this like complete severance in a sense where you're just put into this static like suffering agony. A lot of that stuff is understood in the sense of what it would be like for a believer to be cast away from God. Can you imagine what it'd be like to be cast away from God? Agony. So we're always using it from our own paradigm. We're outsiders looking in. We're not insiders looking out and telling them what it's like, right? So that's an important thing to understand. We don't really have a lot of that. The second thing that needs to also be noted is that it doesn't mean that we're going to be co-mingling, right? It's not like we're co-mingling with a bunch of people. Like we're all in the eschaton co-mingling, and there's a person standing 2 feet away from us going, ah! It's like screaming like they're burning or something like that. And we're just like, oh, that's cool. Like it's not the R.C. Sproul style thing either, where R.C. Sproul says from the Reformed paradigm that you will be so sanctified in heaven in the presence of God that you will look down into hell and see your own grandmother being tormented in hell, and you will say glory to God for that. Disgusting theology. Absolutely disgusting you'd ever say something like that. But those are the kinds of things that you have to wrestle with when it comes to eschatology.
Yeah, I mean, big
Go
thing
ahead.
for me, sorry to cut you off, is that like I don't like to make too many like eschatological statements or statements after death. I mean, Paul says, eye has not seen, ear has not heard what's been prepared for us. I'm paraphrasing. So like the mysteries of the other side of eternity.
Yeah.
It's really something you have to experience.
Yeah.
And very few people, like I'm certainly nowhere near holy enough to have like those otherworldly experiences. Very few people.
So just to go off, this is stuff that I've been told about. This is what stuff that I've read about from Orthodox sources and clergy and other things like that. These are the things that I've had discussions about. And noticed how nuanced we are and how kind of like, well, it is kind of this, but it's not kind of this. And we're very careful about making super definitive statements about things. Now watch him proceed to try and box us into a very specific eschatology. Watch as he does that in this video.
Is vital in this discussion. Metropolitan Callistos Ware was one of the most widely read and trusted Orthodox theologians and bishops in the modern English-speaking world.
Okay, so to be fair, the English-speaking, especially during his time, the English-speaking Orthodox world was incredibly small. Even today, it's still pretty small, even though we're growing very rapidly. So Callistus Ware saying he's one of the most influential English-speaking clergy of the modern era. Yeah, sure, but how is that remotely influential or important in regards to the overall Orthodox Church, right? It just seems like a very bad way to go about it. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you have, all the ecumenical councils. You have basically 2,000 years of church history, because he comes at the very end of not the very end, but the middle of the 20th century. I have the Orthodox way, but that's from, past the 60s. That's basically like yesterday when we're talking about like history for the church starting at Pentecost. So there's just so much more. Like, if you wanted to really deconstruct orthodoxy, you'd have to go back to like the Council of Nicaea and say, well,
even going to the Council of Blachernae, or the Palamite synods, you don't even need to even those are important things that help us understand. Like, you can't understand Orthodox atonement theology without Blachernae. Blachernae formally condemns exchange-based reconciliation, right? It condemns it. So any system that is exchange-based reconciliation is immediately, it's gone. Yeah. It's not there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you
and
can also go.
Craig Truglia goes about that in his video on economic atonement.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's really important to keep in mind that a lot of people don't understand.
It could also go to like the Synod of Jerusalem that was in 1672. I forget the patriarch, but it's in Rock and Sand. That's a great book. And it's part of the appendix is like that document. It's very complicated to read. But that was when the Orthodox Church formally gathered together to condemn Calvinism, right? Because there was this attempt during the Protestant Reformation for the Orthodox and the Protestants to kind of come together. I think Luther, there's some quotes. I'm not
Luther
sure
was a big driver of that. Luther was a big driver of that. And then also there was a lot of heavy Western influences in certain seminaries in Orthodoxy. And so there was some people that attempted to combat that. So that's important to keep in mind as well. Let's continue here.
Especially when it came to explaining Orthodox beliefs to outsiders. And when he talks about heaven and hell, notice where he starts. In his book, The Orthodox Way, he writes, "Self-love is the negation of love. As Charles Williams shows to such devastating effect in his novel Descent into Hell, self-love is hell. For carried to its ultimate conclusion, self-love signifies the end of all joy and all meaning. Hell is not other people. Hell is myself, cut off from others in self-centeredness." Now, I'm aware that some Orthodox Christians reject Callistus Ware over his views on universalism and various other things. And they're trying to say, look, he's appealing to a modernist. That's not what I'm addressing here. I'm citing him for how he articulates.
Okay, so I know that some people have criticisms of him. Okay, great. Thank you for bringing it up. But I don't really understand what his argument is here. Okay, so Callistus Ware says something, so that automatically means that it's true. I don't understand what his point is. I'm arguing for Callistus Ware. Okay, but then you'd have to show that his view is synonymous with the rest of the church on all of these issues. Again, we're conciliar based. So if you provided 20 of his contemporaries, it would have a lot more teeth to it. But so far, he's just like, oh, here's a quote. And that quote isn't even really talking about the eschaton. It's just talking about how self-centeredness leads you to be rejecting joy and all these other things. So I don't that's not really an eschatology quote.
It's more pastoral to me. Yeah, and that's
it doesn't seem like a eschatology quote, right?
It's not like a dogmatic statement from the church. Like if he was talking about hey, here's this canon for whatever that speaks about eschatology, and here's why it's wrong because of but that would be a much more it's a much more intellectually challenging thing to do than the quote line.
All of his stuff is super entry level. It's meant to be pastoral. The Orthodox Way and the Orthodox Church, the two books that he's most famous for, are super entry level. I know nothing about orthodoxy, give me the basics, right? It's not meant to be a deep treatise of our theological paradigm on any issue, by the way. He doesn't go into depth on any issue with a lot of specificity really in either of those books, those are the two books he's most well known for.
articulates the Orthodox experiential framing of hell, which is not a point of controversy. So notice how hell is not first a location. Emphasis on the word first.
Well, it is a location, but it's first and foremost still the presence of God. You can't say that like nothing lacks the presence of God in the sense that God is not sustaining them. God is not the one that is sustaining it. God, the devil is sustained by God still.
Yeah, and the whole this is there's a lot of theology in the Psalms. It's one of the reasons why I love the Psalter. And it says that, you know, though I walk through the shadow of the valley of death, I will fear no evil. And it says, like, if I make my bed in the depths of hell, you are there, right? God is present everywhere, fills all things. You know, that's what the church prays, and the church prays what she believes. It's something, you know, I learned from Trenum. But again, I need to read this, but you can read this book and you can actually digest the information and say, hey, here's why it's wrong, or you can do what he's doing. And one is a lot harder than the other, and one's going to get like a lot more views than the other. But I've got like a bunch of like, you know, books actually.
Which go ahead and hold up that book again so people can see.
So this is Orthodox Dogmatic Theology. Definitely need to read this one. But this is like
from who wrote it?
I believe this is proto-presbyter Michael Pomzowski. But this is one like you can get. I was actually at Jordanville past weekend because the priest in my church actually got consecrated as a bishop. So I saw a consecration of a bishop.
Nice.
Really cool. I think he's the one who's going to baptize me, which I was not expecting to get baptized by a bishop.
My church, it happens frequently because the church that I attend most frequently is the one in Seoul, and that's where our bishop kind of spends most of his time.
Yeah.
When he's not in Russia, being pastoral over there as well.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It just was not something I was expecting, but yeah, no, it's like Jordanville is a bookstore. I got that one off of Amazon, but I did see it there. And I got like The Soul After Death by Seraphim Rose. I have Nihilism. I need
Rollcore.
Yeah.
Rollcore is phenomenal in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, I you know, my parish is part of Rollcore. I went to some of the Greek parishes. I went to the first one I went to was
you're my little brother.
Yeah.
Well, I'm under the Moscow Patriarchate. So.
Yeah. There's actually a church that's like walking distance from me that's part of the Moscow Patriarchate. And when I was there, I met someone who goes there. And now we're buddies. So I'll probably go to that church as well. But like it's half an hour away from me, which is, you know, it's not that bad. And
well, dude, it's better than me. I have to go about 2 hours one way.
Yeah, no, I have done that. Well, I had a friend. This was a lady friend. It didn't work out between us. But I met her like 2 hours north of where I'm living now. And the first time I ever went to an Orthodox church was her parish. Right. And that was my first time going to a liturgy. And it was like, I had spent like almost a year, like studying Orthodoxy and learning a lot about it and becoming very knowledgeable and like what the filioque is and what church history is and in the earthly ministry of Jesus. And I had basically read the whole Bible, the whole Protestant Bible. So I got very familiar with scripture, but like, I could have read, you know, every single book. I could have learned every canon of the council. I could have learned everything. And none of that would do for you what just like one liturgy does for your soul. Right.
Yeah.
And that's
the liturgy. And that's something that I always try and emphasize is that ultimately you can read all day long. You can read every saint that's in existence. But at the end of the day, you must attend the liturgy and you must listen to what the liturgy says. And you should listen to what we actually believe. If you want to know what our theology says, read the liturgy, read the services. Because every day of the week during Pascha, we have different services. Read all those services. They'll tell you everything you need to know about atonement, the eschaton, salvation, etc. Like everything. So, same thing with the services leading up to Christmas. The Christmas services, because they'll tell you everything you need to know about our incarnational theology and things of that nature. So, and our theology on the Theotokos and whatnot. So it's very important to understand that. And so let's continue here, because if we don't, it's gonna end up going like way longer than I intend. So let me check the. Yeah, it's fine. All right, let's go.
It's a condition of the self. a way of being turned inward and cut off. And he's explicit that this isn't merely poetic exaggeration. And he also goes on to note regarding the Apostles' Creed and the line, "He descended into hell." Does this mean merely that Christ went to preach to the departed spirits during the interval between Great Friday evening and Easter morning? Surely it has also a deeper sense. Hell is a point not in space, but in the soul. It is the place where God is not, and yet God is everywhere. And that tension is intentional. Hell is not spatially elsewhere.
That is some dangerous way of saying it, and I wouldn't even say that. I don't think Callisto Swear is intentionally going out of his way to say something that could be interpreted as wrong, because again, Christ is God. Christ did not go into hell and get cut off from God. Right?
Yeah, no, that's like penal substitutionary atonement. And it comes like a misreading of the 7 words. And they're all very beautiful things that Christ says. He says, my God, why have you forsaken me? He's quoting the 21st, 22nd Psalm. And that's a redemptive Psalm 1. And it's also a prophecy of, and he's saying that as like indicative of him fulfilling the prophecy. And you read Matthew's gospel, and that gospel, because he was writing it for a Hebrew audience, and he's constantly saying, Matthew, that this was done in order to fulfill, that this might be fulfilled, right? So, and Christ, of course, he's the one who gave, the prophecies to the people, in tandem with the Holy Spirit. And you have that necessity of his earthly ministry having to fulfill what was prophesied about him.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why he says, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Well, yeah, and people get bogged down about that. I don't want to make this into an atonement thing, because people always, because then
we'll be ranting forever.
You mentioned that we're gonna get some freaking Latinizer coming in the chat who's gonna start Christ was truly blah, and I'm like, I don't want to even talk about it, dude. Especially because none of them actually ever call in. There's only been one that's called in, and he was so insufferable that I just had to eventually boot him. Oh my lord. But anyways, let's continue with Canon here, which is funny because he's not really a.
And if you're an Orthodox Christian and you're listening,
we're not going to go in that.
Well, this guy doesn't even know what we believe. Please just stick with me. I'm going to get into the nuance. To put it plainly, it isn't a spatially located place containing fire in the way that many in the West often imagine. At the same time, it's still seen as real alienation, not because God moves away, but because the soul no longer lives in communion with him. And where Callistos Ware speaks pastorally, Vladimir Lossky explains the theology underneath it. Lossky was one of the most influential Russian Orthodox theologians of the 20th century, especially known for articulating the metaphysical framework behind Orthodox spirituality. And when he discussed heaven and hell, he didn't begin with geography, but participation. He writes, "One who has reached perfection is fully conscious in all his acts of will. He is freed from all constraint and from all natural necessity. The further a person advances in the way of union, the greater is his growth in consciousness. This awareness in the ways of the spiritual life is called knowledge by Eastern ascetical writers. In the higher stages of the mystical way, it is fully revealed as perfect knowledge of the Trinity. On the other hand, lack of awareness, pushed to its furthest limits, would be nothing other than hell, the final destruction of the person." So
again, that quote is not that's not, there's nothing wrong with the quote, but it's clearly not an exhaustive treatise on all of our understanding of the eschaton. So, for example, we know that theosis is a everlasting process. We also know that we will never come to full understanding of the Trinity, and Lossky knows this. So Lossky is not going to say that we can come to full knowledge of the Trinity. It's impossible to. But we come to greater and go from one glory to the next glory to the next glory. And so God, because God is infinite, will never fully be able to comprehend any aspect of God. There will be no aspect of God that we will fully be able to completely understand, unless something is divinely revealed to us.
Yeah, and then there's also the whole fact that, like, if you were to truly be able to understand God, that would necessitate you being uncreated, which that's not what theosis does to you, right? You're still a created being. It's just that you're in this perfect.
So I suspect that Canon is going to basically be reductionist in this. He's gonna give the very, very basic surface level stuff, then he's gonna attack a straw man that he's very rapidly setting up. And I can already see he's like, he's picking and choosing very, very specific quotes. Why doesn't he just go to Lofsky and talk about theosis? Theosis for us is absolutely necessary to understanding the eschaton. Like, why hasn't he gone into theosis yet?
So this puts a little more meat on the bones. He defines hell ontologically, not as a place primarily that one is sent to, but as the collapse of conscious communion with God. And following this, he then addresses the inevitable question, one of which we heard a little bit from where, is God present in heaven but absent in hell, wherever and whatever that may be? And his answer is no. God's presence is indivisible. What differs is not who God is, but how that presence is received.
Yes.
He writes, according to St. Macarius of Egypt, the fire of grace kindled in the hearts of Christians by the Holy Spirit makes them shine like tapers before the Son of God. Sometimes this divine fire, bestowed in proportion to the response of the human will, burns brightly and with an increasing light. Sometimes it decreases and shines no more in a heart troubled by passions. The immaterial and divine fire enlightens and tests souls. This fire descends on the apostles in the form of fiery tongues. This fire shone upon St. Paul. It spoke to him. It enlightened his mind. And at the same time, it blinded his eyes. For flesh cannot bear the brightness of this light.
I just want to point out one thing in this video. Every time you guys think that there was like an obvious AI like script, I want you guys to take a shot. All right. So we'll start now, so you guys don't get completely hammered. But I have a feeling. I'll take a swig of water instead. But so far, I don't see anything wrong with this. But this isn't talking eschatology yet. He's talking about the fire of grace kindled in our hearts, which is there is indeed an aspect of eschatology there, because that doesn't cease to happen in the eschaton. But this is talking about what happened at Pentecost. His voice sounds odd. I think he does some weird filter to his voice.
I thought you guys were talking about me.
No. They were. I think they're talking about canon.
So, rooting things in the theology of Macarius of Egypt, Lofsky notes that what Orthodoxy calls the fires of hell are understood to be God.
Wait, does it say that? Saint Macarius says the fire of grace kindled in the hearts of Christians. Sometimes this divine fire bestowed in proportion to the response of the human moral burns brightly and increasing light. Sometimes it decreases and shines no more with a troubled heart and a heart troubled by passions. The heart has been given over in hell. The heart would be fully given over to the passions. God no longer. God says, you don't want to be a part of me. He is releasing them fully to their own passions. So this isn't talking about this is just a straight up misinterpretation.
Yeah.
Where does it talk about hell here? Am I wrong, Joker?
I wouldn't disagree, and this is something St. Paul says, like, I will give them over to Satan so that they might be saved, right? There's at some point where you just say, like, hey, if you don't want to be saved, then you can just go and serve your passions, and that ultimately means that you're going to be in communion with Satan and not with the Lord. And then, once the eschaton happens, everyone who's in communion with the devil is going to be in the pit of hell, right?
Yeah.
Very often I feel like I'm among those people.
Well, yeah, Lord have mercy on us all.
Yeah.
And all those who pass away outside of the bounds of the church, we pray for them as well.
Yeah. Great Akathis is Varus's one. I read that a lot.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, this is just a straight up. So again, canon doesn't do even basic due diligence. This is why I think he does AI script. I think he says, find me somebody in. Do you think he really read Vladimir Lofsky Mystical Theology in the Eastern Church, and chose that specific page, or do you think he asked AI to find him something that talks about divine fire?
Probably just saying, like, hey, I want to refute Eastern Orthodox like eschatology or Eastern Orthodox afterlife. Can you do it for me? And it's not like you can't use AI to like help research.
Well, let's test this, guys. Let's test this. I'll use the most Google. I'll use the most unbiased AI that I know for
Because I mean,
Because this is
look,
Chinese, so the
the China-
Chinese aren't going to be super.
Chinese aren't going to be. But yeah, I mean, I would go into Chat GPT and like, say like, hey, what does this mean? Or can we talk about this? Like, what does the father say about this? And like,
So
it's like
let's
it's
do
good.
this.
It's good for like it's good for basic research, but of course you got to check stuff.
Hey,
But yeah, I mean, talking to like these models, like in a lot of ways, like talking to an encyclopedia. But there's a lot of things it gets wrong.
oh, tons of stuff.
Yeah,
Because they're sourcing most of the time. They're trained on internet stuff.
yeah.
And actually, what people don't realize is that Reddit is actually one of the highest ranked sources of information, not just for the algorithms that Google uses for their Google search algorithms, but also Reddit is one of the top for information. Like, is this true or not? So if AI is being trained on Reddit, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, man, I used Reddit a lot when I was in high school, and then
I'm a confessional. Go ahead, talk.
yeah, and then yeah, I really fell off for me. But Reddit's completely compromised, like because all the mods are very left leaning, all the admins are, so. But the whole thing with like I do view AI as a tool, although in a lot of ways it's a tool that is being abused, and the people who are behind it, you think of someone like Sam Altman who's using ChatGPT to raise his kid, and is basically going to allow like the rise of like, oh, here's my AI boyfriend, here's my AI girlfriend, and people aren't using it to like edify themselves or improve their ability to think critically. They're offshoring, outsourcing is a better word. They're thinking capacity to ChatGPT and DeepSeek and Claude, whatever model they use, and they're becoming dumber as a result. This is going to be detrimental to like the iPad kids that are just scrolling through apps, because it's detrimental for like I'm 27, adults my age are doing stuff like this. So there was a peak where I would use AI a lot. I do like a daily poll on Twitter, and I have it like give me poll ideas, because like I'm too lazy to think of like my own poll ideas, so it helps me with that. And like I said, I use it to copy edit, which is really good for like if you write something and then you want to like copy edit. That's fantastic for that. But it's not like anything like super complex. It's just I don't know. In some ways it's there like for like mathematical stuff, and it is going to get better, but it's just like there's so many implications with this, and especially with like replacing human interaction, like it's just getting to a whole other degree. And I just
Okay.
really
So guys,
like it.
I'm going to read this. To engage with the Eastern Orthodox, we must first understand their entire theological framework is built on a distinction between God's essence and God's energies. This distinction is crucial to understanding their view of the afterlife. The standard Eastern Orthodox teaching, articulated by figures like St. Basil the Great, St. Gregory Palamas, and St. Isaac of Nineveh, is as follows. And then he goes into it, and then part 1, part 3, analysis, providing quotes. Yeah. If you wanted to craft a video, it wouldn't be too difficult to do that. You just keep on inserting. Oh, can you insert this quote here and insert that quote here? Definitely sounds AI to me. So far, what he's saying. So let's
The
continue.
brightness of this light. So, rooting things in the theology of Macarius of Egypt, Losky notes that what Orthodoxy calls the fires of hell are understood to be God's own presence, the same presence that enlightened the apostles at Pentecost, the same presence that spoke to Paul, overwhelming and blinding him. In other words, the same divine fire, the uncreated presence of God, but different effects. It illuminates some and it torments others, not because the fire changes, but because the soul encountering it does. He then carries that logic into the final judgment itself, drawing upon Simeon, the new theologian, where he writes, "The divine light becomes the principle of our understanding. In it we come to know God, and we come to know ourselves. It searches out the depths of the person who attains to union with God. It is for that person the judgment of God before the last judgment. For according to St. Simeon, there are 2 judgments, one in this life, the judgment to salvation, the other after the end of the world, the judgment to condemnation."
Yes, that's important to distinguish. So I don't see what the issue. So far, I don't see what his issue is so far with it, but we'll see what he has to say after the end of this.
This present life, when by repentance we enter freely and of our own will into the divine light, we find ourselves accused and under judgment. But owning to the divine love and compassion, the accusation and judgment is made in secret, in the depths of our soul, to purify us, that we may receive the pardon of our sins. In other words, judgment is seen to be the unveiling of
In other words, why does he always say that? Again, very AI coded. In other words,
You know,
I have to rephrase what this person just said so that I can set up a straw man.
Well, it's very much
for some.
if you're
Yeah, go
talking
ahead.
about like getting information from Reddit that the AIs are doing, it's probably also like grabbing from like people who are writing in like that like high school essay format where you say like in other words or to make this point or to say this to like up the word count. Because you know like when you're in high school and college, like you're just getting to that like word count or to the however many pages. There's that like video of like when you need to up your word count, it's just saying like there was a fire and then it's just saying it like 10 times.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why. And it's more of like it's a point for this being AI generated, I would say.
Yeah. So, guys, keep in mind the elite right here. We're gonna keep that up. His chat right there. Notice how many times it says this.
That is joyful, and for others, it will be unbearable exposure. Noting that Simeon even speaks of two judgments, one now, as the soul encounters divine light unto healing, and one at the end unto condemnation.
Yeah, so I don't think very few Christian denominations or heterodox or Roman Catholics deny that there is an initial judgment of the soul. That when you die, there's an initial judgment, and then the final judgment on the after the resurrection of the dead. Everybody, including from the for the Reformed position, it's a problematic thing because even the reprobates are resurrected. Why would the reprobates need to be resurrected? They've already been created to be damned. It just doesn't make any sense. And so, but everybody is resurrected and then judged. So I don't understand what the issue is so far.
And it's a fundamental misunderstanding of the incarnation. Because the word became flesh, as in taking on complete human nature. God bound himself to human nature completely, which means every human being has human nature, which means we all experience that. Whether or not we'll be saved because of that depends on our own free will, but like every single human being has human nature.
You're talking to most, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of Protestants essentially deny free will altogether. So I mean,
exactly. But the whole
implicit, at least for some of them.
Calvinism is like the biggest, like realizing, like thinking through this. Like Calvinism is the worst thing that happened theologically, because people have this understanding of God as this like evil, legalistic man in the sky that's just looking for reasons to send you to hell, and that's because of John Calvin.
Sorry, my daughter came home with a friend, and I just was checking on them to make sure that they were okay. So, all right, guys, let's continue this video.
But in both cases, the judgment is not God becoming something different. It is the soul standing exposed before who God eternally is.
Okay, so he's zooming in. It seems like he's trying to say that this is a very important point, okay? At least implicitly, that's what he's doing with the camera work. Now, God cannot change. God is immutable. This is a basic doctrine. God cannot change, okay? So far, I don't get what exactly, like he's trying to like craft this narrative, and I'm not seeing what he's trying to craft. So let's see what he says.
And that same instinct appears even earlier in the 7th century spiritual theology of Isaac of Nineveh, who is especially explicit about what judgment.
Wow, so what he's saying is that we're remarkably consistent? I just want to point that out. So let's go.
Not. First, we read that we should imagine that anger, wrath, jealousy, or the such like have anything to do with the divine nature is something utterly abhorrent for us. No one in their right mind, no one who has any understanding at all, can possibly come to such madness as to think anything of the sort about God. Nor again can we possibly say that he acts thus out of retribution. Even though the scriptures may on the outer surface posit this, even to think this of God and to suppose that retribution for evil acts is to be found with him is abominable. By implying that he makes use of such a great and difficult thing out of retribution, we are attributing a weakness to the divine nature.
Correct. So again, what Isaac of Nineveh is saying is essentially is that if you are saying that God is mutable and can be changed by created effects, so we're created and we're secondary causes. If God can be influenced and affected by secondary causation, and he can change his will based on that secondary causation, then not of his own accord. So like, God can freely choose to change his mind on certain things if he so desires, but he's outside of time and space, so he doesn't need to. He already knows what he's going to decide, right? Like, how does that work? How do I define that in a way that's not problematic? This is a very complicated. This is like time theory stuff, and I'm not always the greatest on this. But basically, he's outside of time and space. He doesn't change. He's immutable.
Exactly. And it's so hard, like, because whenever we say like, oh, God could change his mind or God's hands, like, we're using language to condescend like the nature of God.
We're condescending his decisions and his actions to something that can make sense to us. So
and this is like, I think, a fundamental misunderstanding of like what it means to put your trust in God, right? One of the very comforting things, like, there's nothing I could do that will override God's providence, and that gives you a lot of comfort as a believer, right? This is, the Sermon on the Mount. It's like, the birds of the air will be fed. Like, how much more will your heavenly Father protect about you? Like that like complete trust that, like, no matter what I do, as long as I have faith that God will take care of me, the Lord will provide. And that's been true in my life this past year. I went on a big move. I had a lot of stuff go wrong, but it ended up very well for me. And I went on that day. I was like, I have a plan, but if it goes well, it's all by the grace of God, and that's how it worked out for me.
And I will say this as well, that even through my illness issues, and even through my my wife's issues and my father-in-law's issues, like my father-in-law has cancer right now. He's going through chemo, and my mother-in-law cutting off her finger, all these things that would normally break the bank and like basically put us out on the streets, hasn't, because I'm just allowing God. I'm just doing what I normally do, and I'm allowing God to take care of it, and because of the generosity of many people as well. So my massively by the way, big shout out to everybody in chat. Thank you for sharing and all these, liking the stream, all that nonsense. It is very much helpful, and you guys are a blessing. So all right, let's continue.
So for Isaac, divine punishment is not retaliation or retribution. It's not God's wrath unleashed or God turning hostile. Instead, everything God does is ordered toward the good of rational creatures, even
in
when
other
that
words,
good is experienced painfully. He continues by writing, God acts towards us in ways he knows will be advantageous to us, whether by way of things that cause suffering or by way of things that cause relief, whether they cause joy or grief, whether they are insignificant or glorious. All are directed toward the single eternal good, whether each receives judgment or something of glory from him, not by way of retribution, far from it, but with a view of the advantage that is going to come from all these things. This is how everything works with him, even though things may seem otherwise to us. With him, it is not a matter of retribution, but he's always looking beyond to the advantage that will come from his dealings with humanity. And one such thing is this matter of Gehenna. So even hell is placed inside God's beneficent action, not outside of his love, and not opposed to his goodness. All people will encounter the same divine fire, but it will be experienced differently depending on the state of the soul encountering him.
Okay, you've made that point.
Actions or spatial places, but two different ways of the same divine reality being experienced. And that means that final judgment in this framework is understood very differently than how it is in the West. It isn't primarily pictured as a courtroom scene where God issues a verdict and then sends people off to one spatial location filled with fire and another filled with bliss. Rather, final judgment itself is the universal encounter with God's divine presence, the same uncreated fire encountered by all. Heaven and hell are two ways that single encounter is experienced. So for those formed by the orthodox path, those that are on the orthodox way of theosis and union with God, this encounter will be healing, illuminating, and blissful. But for the lost,
I just don't understand what his problem is so far. What is his problem? Dude, how can you spend 11 minutes? This did not need to be 18-minute video. He could have summarized all of this stuff in way less time. And I have this sped up, and I'm getting irritated. Like, I'm getting irritated. He's not getting to the point. What is his problem?
I'm getting bored as well. It's like, And I feel a lot of these things, like we're talking about like spatial, like to me that like is the least important thing in eschatology, whether it's going to be like a spatial place or not. And I think that that's a fundamental misunderstanding. And spatial reality is going to exist in the eschaton because New Jerusalem will descend down.
Yeah, a new Earth is created. Like we know that we're still going to be participants in the created order because we're created beings.
Yeah, and that's, yeah.
So I just like what I still do not fully understand. Do they like, are they trying to say that it's a problem that hell isn't a different dimension that is like a different created order? Well, no, hell is still going to be part of the created order. In terms of place, it may not be that we're standing next to somebody. Like I feel like he's going to be setting up a huge straw man, and it's just going to be like none of that follows from any of the quotes that he's mentioned so far. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's skip past Isaac the of Nineveh. Let's get to where his actual, because I'm not going to listen to more of this. Let's get to what his actual problem is with this.
It's deeper than that. It's actually about what judgment actually does. When you strip away the rhetoric and the imagery, what's really happening here is that we have two different models of final judgment that are being put forth. And the difference isn't merely cosmetic. It's actually functional.
AI, I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
It's not merely cosmetic, it's functional. What does that even mean? Can you explain to me? It's not merely cosmetic, it's functional. Are cosmetics not function?
Yeah, and the whole thing is like we're talking about like theology here. Like I don't think theology is supposed to be cosmetic. And I mean I love the B-roll footage of this. This is honestly like, you know, making me more orthodox. Seeing the iconography, and this is a very important thing in the church, is that like the iconography, like that is part of the theology of the church. Is like you look at the iconostasis, and like it's very specific of like as to like what you're like supposed to believe, like how we believe. I mean, in my parish, like right above the iconostasis, or part of it is the hospitality of Abraham, right? And it's one of the most, I would say, I mean, all the theophanies are important, but that's probably one of the most important theophanies is the hospitality of Abraham. And these are other things that like also like when I first learned about them, they were like Christophanies to me, but you know, theophanies is the better term. But like, you know,
Theophany is the better term because the Trinity is fully present in the theophanies as well. So I think that it just works better that way. But let's continue and see what his actual AI script tells him to have problems with. Because so far, what is the problem?
In the Orthodox framework that I just laid out, judgment is primarily revelatory. Resurrection reveals what a person already is, and judgment manifests one's disposition toward God. Heaven and hell differ primarily in experience, not assignment. God doesn't place people into final states. He exposes them to himself. So judgment in this model is chiefly ontological disclosure. Whereas the model that I'm convinced of functions very differently. And it's the one that I believe aligns.
You're convinced of it, huh? Okay.
With Scripture. Resurrection is the means by which judgment is enacted. Judgment actually renders a verdict, and that verdict does something. It assigns things like inheritance, exclusion, placement, and irreversible outcome. Judgment here isn't simply descriptive. It's judicial and distributive. So from my vantage...
I was so AI as well. Oh my gosh, I just couldn't get past it. So let's go back here. Judgment is judicial and enacted. Oh, okay. We wouldn't even have problem with judicial language per se because the final judgment is a judgment.
Yeah, this is like this is how Christ is like, you know, the goats on the left, the sheep on the right. Depart from me, you who practices lawlessness, right? There's of course, you know, judgment in the eschaton. That's the whole point. It says like you shouldn't judge because that judgment will be given back unto you, right? So I don't see how like
resurrection consummates a verdict. How so? So the resurrection of the dead is distinct from the final judgment. You are resurrected and then you are judged. So how is the resurrection consummating the verdict?
Yeah, my understanding
is not judging you before the resurrection of the dead? That doesn't make any sense.
And my whole understanding is that all flesh will be resurrected. So including like the tree. Oh, that was like a
all of creation is restored, but I don't know. Some saints don't say that like every animal that's ever died is going to be resurrected.
I was talking with like I'm a monastery, and I was talking about like cats. It's like, oh, I hear that like all cats, all the animals will come back, but animals, they have souls, but they don't have eternal souls. So
Yeah. So Saint Gregory Palamas, I got in trouble probably a year and a half ago for saying this, and I might upset some people in the chat. So I'm sorry in advance. This is just what I read from Saint Gregory Palamas. Saint Gregory Palamas said that the blood of the animal is the source of their animation. And hold on. I don't know who that is, but hold on. The blood, before I let you up, and the blood of the animal is the source of their animation or their how they live. Once an animal dies and their blood is spilt or their blood basically decays, the animal's soul essentially dissipates. That's what Saint Gregory Palamas says. But again, there are some saints that say, yeah, the animals will be in heaven. I'm sure animals will be in heaven. But the question is Fido, your little dog, yipping, yip, yip, Fido, you're so cute, love you. Is that going to be resurrected? That's a more of a amorphous mystery. We don't know.
Yeah,
and I don't think it's not fair to speculate on that. Like, the saints don't really speculate much on this, like on eschatology broadly on the human soul, let alone animals. Right?
Yeah, I think it's a very unimportant thing. And regardless of like if you experience the eschatology in a way where you have theosis, then like whatever the outcome is, you'll be satisfied with it. That's the most important thing.
God can't God bring their blood back? I mean, certainly he can, but the question is do those animals have eternal souls? That's a problem.
Or will they like experience? Will they be? I think the thing is like if all flesh is resurrected, right, and they're animated from their blood.
Real quick, person who's in the background and find fun. I can't see you. I don't. Your camera's all jacked up, so I'm sorry. I can't really. Because I don't know who you are. So, so I'm gonna go ahead and. Ogshis? Yeah, I'm gonna have to wait till I can get like a confirmation of who you are, mate. So we're gonna continue this.
Judgment here isn't simply comes this. If resurrection merely reveals what already is, then judgment is descriptive. But if resurrection consummates a verdict, then judgment is active. And I just can't help but get over
that doesn't make any sense. This is what happens when you also have a Western legal framework as the bedrock of understanding God's justice. God's justice is not the same as the Western legal framework, right? God is not bound to Western law and how they philosophize about verdicts. God is not bound to that. I know. Shocker, Western people, you're not bound to like English common law. And the Greeks, their understanding of law and their understanding of justice is righting that which is disordered. It's not about. It's not necessarily punitive in nature, in order to. Like, you've incurred a debt, therefore this punitive act must be enacted in order to right the debt.
Yeah, and the whole thing, like, if you read the book of Job, right? Job is suffers, and it wasn't because he did anything wrong. It was as a test to prove Job's faith in God, right? So this idea that like X happens because you did Y, I think it's a fundamentally like it's a very Western way of viewing things to try and put everything into these categories. Like if you know like Thaddeus Patrick. I did a podcast with him, and this is one of the things he said, that like trying to define everything is a very Western thing, and I think it comes from like having this legalistic framework where
scholasticism, and I'm going to get in trouble with certain Orthodox who are super big defenders of scholasticism, but scholasticism has its limits. There's a reason why the Orthodox paradigm is not foundationally built on scholastic ideas that were established in the West. Scholastic, like being scholarly, is not necessarily wrong, but scholasticism, the bedrock of the West is not necessarily Orthodox. And I'll go to bat against that any day of the week. God is not a Renaissance European lawyer. Nev would have considered that. The best answers I heard was, if it's necessary for your eternal salvation, then yes. So
Yeah, I mean,
Let's
yeah.
let's continue this, though.
continue.
The fact that Scripture relentlessly speaks in the second register. The verbs in Scripture are doing serious work. Over and over again, the text uses verbs that don't merely reveal.
Yeah, but I don't care about what the English verbs are, dude. I care about what the Greek and the Aramaic and the Masoretic and things of that nature say. Even the Russian is closer to Greek than most English translations are nowadays.
Yeah, the whole thing with this, with the Bible, with the scriptures, it's not like it's never one book. It's a holistic text. It's a liturgical text. Because you go to the liturgy, there's like 700 references to the Bible. So this idea of the Bible as just being this book that, like, I mean, I have an Orthodox study Bible on the table right there. But it's not purely this book that, like, you just sit and read alone in your room and then you have like the understanding of everything that Christianity is. That's a very modern idea. I don't think that's even what the proponents of sola scriptura initially had. Like, this is not like what Martin Luther intended. But nowadays,
I think a lot of the reformers probably didn't think about the long-term consequence of some of their arguments, frankly.
Yeah, it just happened.
Fundamentally, I think they were all reactionaries.
Yeah, I mean,
which
there's
is
a lot of,
similar to Marxists. They're reactionary.
I mean, there are a lot of good reasons, because the Catholic Church had I mean, still has a lot of issues, and it had a lot of issues back then, and they were very justified in saying, hey, like, the Pope shouldn't be doing this. The Catholic Church is an error. But the thing was like, okay, well, let's become our own popes, right? And that's fundamentally the whole thing. And Rock and Sand is really great. That's a fantastic book to read.
Well, Canon seems to think that Father Josiah has shoddy scholarship. He had 2.5-hour videos where he goes over it.
Doesn't just tell us that judgment involves people encountering God. It tells us that something happens because of judgment. And nowhere is that clearer than in the book of Revelation.
Wait, well, but the resurrection of the dead is not happening because of the judgment. The people are resurrected and then judged. Its order of operations is basically completely wrong here, Canon.
In the apocalypse, hell in particular isn't described as everyone encountering the same divine reality in different modes. It's described as something prepared for a particular...
He's using the NIV, which is a terrible translation, by the way.
People who are then thrown in. And Jesus more specifically informs us who it was prepared for: the devil and his angels. And something that's prepared isn't simply identical with God himself. In other words, the lake of fire is not described as God himself experienced.
We don't say that the lake of fire is identical to God. That's like saying we are identical to God because we're created. That's silly. No one makes that argument. We're saying what they experience. Oh my gosh. Did he listen to any of the quotes that he said, or is he just reading a script and then saying that this is the result? Did he actually read these quotes? This is really frustrating to me. I'm actually a little pissed off.
Yeah, no, I think, those are rhetorical questions. I don't think he did. I mean, to me, this is just really low tier stuff. And to me, this is
so
like,
low tier.
Like, if you're going to choose a reason to not be Eastern Orthodox, like, I really don't see it being this. Like, you have to, like, pick something better. But probably, like...
Eschatology is such a low, like, it's important, but it's not like, it's like someone could be completely like, oh, in heaven we're all going to be singing with harps, and then they leave a complete and they live a totally Orthodox life. They're faithful, they believe in Christ, they do everything that that Christ commands of them, and they love Christ, they love God, and they dedicate themselves to it, and they believe in some weird, like, oh, we're all going to be angel babies with like little wings and harps. Okay, you don't think God's going to be like, damn, sorry, you got your eschatology wrong. You know, it's like,
but
God's not a lawyer. He's not a judge.
Yeah, the whole thing is like,
I should say he's not a. I'm sorry. Let me fix that statement quick. He is not a. He's not a legalistic Western common law judge. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
And also, God is a loving father, right? This is the thing is that like he's not this like man in the sky. He's not looking for reasons to send you to hell, right? Like he's a loving father. Your life is organized in a way for your salvation if you exercise your free will to align with that. So like the person that example,
Everyone is given sufficient knowledge and sufficient how do you say? There's sufficient things in their life for their condemnation, but also by necessity salvation. So people always take that verse that talks about everybody's got sufficient knowledge for their condemnation, but by extension, that means they have sufficient knowledge also for their salvation.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. But the thing is, like, if I was going to make like my why I'm not Eastern Orthodox, if I was going to make like a polemic against Orthodoxy, I would probably choose like the jurisdictional issues, especially in America. Because those
That
are
would be the strongest. Yeah.
because I had said this, like I commented on one of your live streams, like there ought to be one autocephalous church in America.
I have a more controversial opinion on that right now. I don't think that America's ready for it.
I mean I can definitely agree with that, but like there are like a lot of issues with like the politics of the church. I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not clergy. I'm not fully part of the laity yet, so that's not my place to say. But if I were to make a polemic against Eastern Orthodoxy, it would be the jurisdictional issues, and that would be like something that would be
and that's such a weak one, because then you would have to basically condemn the early church because they had identical problems, right? So I think that ultimately that one falls flat, but it is the strongest one, right?
I mean, it
is
goes
the
back
strongest.
like Paul was, like writing letters saying like, it's not my church or this guy or Apollo's church, it's the church, right? I'm paraphrasing there. So like these like sectional disputes always existed. Autocephaly was granted to Cyprus. There were patriarchal disputes in the first millennium of the church. So yeah, I agree with you. It's a weak argument, but like that would be the strongest argument to actually make, and it would probably be one that would materially convince people a lot more than talking about eschatology, which we've established is like not the highest order thing, and it's very hard to talk about that because it has like it's such a different experience than what we experience as earthly beings, seeing only with the eyes of the flesh, right? You have to see with the eyes of the soul to experience like what's going to happen in the eschaton. Yeah,
for sure. And also like you're again, theosis and enlightenment is a necessary and the greater degrees of theosis we achieve, the greater our ability to perceive God's glory and the glories of God and the energies of God are going to be. This is why some of the saints talk about infants that are in heaven that were miscarried infants, for example, that are in the heavenly mansions. They may not have the ability to fully perceive of all of the aspects of God's glories, but because we believe in epikastis or epikastis, I can never pronounce that damn word. But because we believe in that, because we believe theosis is eternal, these these infants will experience some degree of theosis themselves. It may not be to the full extent that we are capable of doing so, but me and you, I'm just gonna be happy if I can get to heaven. I'm probably not going to be to the level of a saint, right? I'm not going to be to the level of a saint who's able to fully perceive of the divine light, who literally shines when you meet them. Those people, those monastics that you meet that just have like an otherworldliness to them.
Ones have like clairvoyance, like you'd walk up to St. Paisios and he would just start telling you your whole life story. I think, I know Bryson Gray, and he says like, will you be called least in the kingdom of heaven? Like if I'm least in the kingdom of heaven, that's a lot more.
Glory to God.
Yeah, it's a lot more. Like if I have like the tiniest corner in the smallest mansion of heaven, then I'm a happy camper. And that's anything.
And it's not like minimalism, by the way. That's just us trying to express, like that's Orthodox way of expressing we're trying to be humble.
Yeah, and I always hate doing that. Like, oh, I'm so humble. Like it's a way of like I feel like
which is why we don't say it all the time. But when people do accuse us of this, it's like, no, dude, I'm gonna be happy if I just make it to the even St. Paul does that at the end of the day, right? Well, what does St. Paul say?
Yeah,
right. He says, "I'm the chief of sinners."
Yes, that's what we say in the liturgy. Is like I confess that like I am the chief of sinners.
Does
of who I-
does that mean that I literally believe that I am the worst possible sinner on the planet? No, I mean like I could. I mean maybe I could be, but was St. Paul as bad as, say, for example, Stalin or Hitler? Of course, like anybody who can reasonably look at their lives can say, okay, no, but we say that out of a sense of trepidation towards God's judgment because we take it seriously.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's also the fact that like anyone who's really saintly, like they see only their own sins, and they'll see the glory in mankind. Because even if someone is living in sin, they're still made in God's image, and there are still aspects about them that you can appreciate and realize that these are things that were given to them by God. Like even if someone is like quarrelsome or foreign or doing whatever it is, like they're still made in God's image. You can still see these things. And if someone is living in sin, think of how great their repentance could be, right?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. Yep. All the more reason to pray for these people. And also, I mean, there's the classic story of the monastic who had an alcohol problem. Everyone knows this. I can't remember which saint it was, but he was a monastic. He had an alcohol problem. He was always drunk. And at the end of his life, he dies, and all the other monks, the abbot was just grieving desperately, and he says, all these other monks are saying, well, why are you grieving? He constantly had all issues. He constantly was drunk, all these things. And the abbot said he was born with an addiction to alcohol, and he would get drunk every single day for most of his life. But towards the end of his life, he had managed to only be drunk 2 days a week instead of 5 days or 7 days a week. But only 2 days a week now he was drunk. And glory to God, because he was resisting the passions to the best of his ability. So the point is that the point is that like God is going to judge us based on the experiences that we've had, and not this kind of like, well, you're prejudged, and then we resurrect you, and then you're thrown into the lake of fire. That's not what's happening. Because otherwise, if someone's being prejudged, why resurrect them in the first place?
And the whole thing is like, if there are people who are condemned, like why will they be raised in the first place? And the whole thing with like predestination, you have to believe in double predestination. Is like, why would God create people just to damn them? It makes no sense.
No. Well, it makes God the author of evil by necessity, because he's creating people for the express purpose of damning them, because that gives him glory from the Reformed perspective. So let's continue this and see what he has to say about the book of Revelation, and then we can see if there's anything else.
As burning love. It's described as something distinct, something entered as judgment. And this is seen in how death and the contents of Hades are cast into it, as well as that the lake of fire is called the second death, which conveys that this isn't just symbolic language floating free in sequence. It's actually judicial movement. Something is prepared, a verdict is rendered, and then something is entered.
He's viewing hell as like some sort of like legal jail system where God is like, let's see if the ledger yep, you didn't do the thing, or you didn't achieve XYZ. Like, did you accept this free gift from Christ that is the illegal payment for your debts? Sorry. Like, he's acting as if like prepared means it in the way that he's suggesting it. Prepared doesn't necessarily imply that God is already decided in advance he knows in advance, because God is outside of time and space. He knows in advance who's going to accept him or not. But that doesn't mean that he's prepared it, because again, it makes no sense, because then you have to say, well, why is he resurrecting them if he's already decided to throw them in the lake of fire? Why not just immediately do so? Why is it important to resurrect them? Makes no sense.
No, it really does not. And the whole thing with Calvinism, it really just it changes God to being like this like evil man rather than this eternally loving father. And this is like the conceptualization of God that people have in modernity. It's why a lot of people are atheists today.
Yes. A lot of people, the reason they're atheists is because of what they experience in the theology of Calvinism, frankly.
Yeah, I'd say that's one of the things that like why I was an atheist, is that this is the conceptualization of God that I had. And of course, this whole thing like with being like a materialist and being very like, and I still am very worldly. It's like it's hard for me to like accept like the invisible world, but like the more, I've considered everything. Of course, like tag and like all the stuff that Jay Dyer has said about like against atheism, and then just like thinking through like the scientific paradigm, like like abiogenesis, like mathematics. There's just so many things that like atheists can't really prove, then all their presuppositions that and then you just see the testimony of the saints and everything. And it's like, well, this is there's definitely a lot more to life than just like these eyes and these ears, right? And that's been my experience.
Yep, Green Emperor. Yep, the PSA view is very problematic, but don't tell that to the Latinizers. They seem to think that we believe in PSA. Anyways, let's continue this. Let's wrap it up.
Really struggle with the Orthodox proposition and their handling of these texts. Revelation doesn't describe all creatures encountering the same divine fire in different psychological or spiritual.
Again, Revelation doesn't really describe what happens in the eschaton at all. It like not in super vivid detail. It's mostly talking about the heavenly liturgy. Most of it's about the liturgy. And it's a whirlwind. Again, this is why the saints have always prevented neophytes. Like the church traditionally didn't let people read Revelation for a reason, because it brings up it's too difficult for the spiritually mature people to even handle, which is precisely why I don't care about your interpretation here, bro. I mean, that's really what this comes down to. Don't care about your interpretation, bro.
I mean, yeah, and
a distinct outcome that follows judgment, which creates a question that the Eastern experiential framework has to answer. Is hell something God simply is, or is it something God does? Well, I would contend.
I don't. This is a hell is or does. I don't see why those are necessarily opposed to each other.
Yeah,
I don't see.
I
see what the point he's trying to make
it's a very
here.
confusing question. All right.
I don't. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not super straightforward.
And the whole like with eschatology, this is all stuff that's happening outside of time and space. So like to use that kind of like ontological language, right? Because like ontology is part of philosophy, and human philosophy is something that is subservient to God's nature. So like saying like if God is, God does, hell, like to me that's very confusing. Like I think it really misses the point of eschatology, which again we've established is a very complicated thing, and like this is not like what you're going to want to be concerned about with eschatology. It's more like how do you get onto the right side of the eschaton rather than like the philosophical definition of heaven and hell. To me that's like I don't know, it's like much more complex stuff, and that's stuff that like you're not really going to understand.
And this is he actually brings up a fantastic point from Father Seraphim Rose, which I guess why didn't you lead off with this from the very beginning, right? So let's go ahead and listen to this.
Some will say this isn't dogma within Orthodoxy, so therefore it shouldn't be a barrier. And yes, it is worth noting that the Eastern tradition itself has always insisted that heaven and hell are not only psychological conditions. Figures like
yes, we told you this from the beginning. It's not an either or. He's making a false dialectic here. We've never said it's merely this.
Father Seraphim Rose strongly resisted modern attempts to reduce them to states with no locative or objective reality. But that charge misunderstands what I'm actually objecting to.
Well, what are you actually objecting to? Oh my lord. So let's read this real quick since he didn't bother reading the quote. Heaven, therefore, is certainly a place, no one disagrees, and is certainly up from any point on the earth, and hell is certainly down in the bowels of the earth. But these places and their inhabitants cannot be seen by men until their spiritual eyes are opened, as we have seen earlier with regard to the aerial realm. So he's cutting out all the aerial realm context. Further, these places are not within the coordinates of time and space. This is exactly what we were saying before. An airline does not pass visibly through paradise, nor a Earth satellite through the third heaven, nor can the souls waiting in hell for the last judgment be reached by drilling for them in the earth. They are not there, but in a different kind of space that begins right here, but extends as if it were in a different direction. I don't understand how this is a difficult concept. It's not an either or.
With no negative
definitely.
outputs and
And it's-
He's
reality.
not even disagreeing with the other quotes earlier.
Yeah, and it's
So
all,
canon is setting up a false dialectic here.
yeah, no, I just cannot see this. And the whole thing is like the whole like the ontological status of heaven and hell, like it's not that important to like any sort of theological system. Especially like you know, if you believe that there isn't like reincarnation, right? If like, you know, you're like a Hindu, right, and you're saying my problem with being in Eastern Orthodox is they don't believe in reincarnation. I've seen like some evidence for reincarnation, but that's not a Christian thing. But like, if you had a belief in reincarnation, then I could see you having an eschatological problem with Eastern Orthodoxy. But this is not his perspective at all. He believes that there's heaven and hell and a final judgment from Christ, which is what
Yeah.
he would believe in. It's just like the specifics of it, which again, these are very fine points. And again, you're not going to hell because you believe differing things on this. Like, God's not that legalistic.
Yeah, and Green Emperor says, why can't it be both? Yeah, it's just this false either or. Like, I don't understand what. Ultimately, he says one big reason, and his reason is just like, well, they don't use judicial language. That's essentially what this entire video comes down to.
But that charge misunderstands what I'm actually objecting to, because this isn't about rejecting orthodoxy over a single optional belief. It's about recognizing a widely used way of explaining final judgment, where heaven and hell are described downstream from what judgment is first said to do. Once judgment is framed as exposure rather than verdict, place language doesn't disappear, but it does get redefined.
So his big issue is PSA, Augustinian original sin. His issue is that we don't have atonement theology that is the same as his. His problem is that our eschatology doesn't reflect it in the wording. So his problem is the wording, really. So he could have saved us all this time by just saying they don't word it properly and I don't like it. Like, that's essentially what he could have done and saved us all a whole hell of a lot of time with this 18-minute waste of a video.
So
Let's
whether
just finish
something is
this
formally
off.
dogmatized or not doesn't change the fact that it shapes how the Bible is read, taught, and explained within the tradition. And that's the level where the disagreement actually sits for me. I could learn to say the Orthodox explanation, and I think I faithfully did in this video, but I would know
Not
that I
really.
was no longer saying what the text is saying, which means that becoming Eastern Orthodox for me would require that I violate my conscience, a conscience bound to the scriptures.
So it comes down to right of private judgment.
Yeah, no, it's this
Sola
whole thing.
Scriptura. This all comes down to me and my Bible says that you guys reading it wrong, guys. He's reading it wrong.
Oh yeah,
That's
no,
what it comes down to.
yeah, all of it,
This
like,
entire thing was just a giant. Oh my gosh! Talk about a bloviating mess of a video. What, dude? It was like, how do I say this? He was huffing on his own farts.
yeah.
Oh,
No,
I'm so intellectual. Let me
I
huff on this.
I read my Bible, and I'm right.
Came
and
to a
you're
different
wrong.
conclusion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I got mine right here, buddy. I don't see. In fact, let me go to the study notes of all the verses that you bring up and disagree with you. Right?
Yeah. You know, I love like oh man, I love I remember I was talking with this evangelical and we were talking about Pharaoh, because in Exodus the language is used as, you know, Pharaoh's heart is hardened, and this is supposedly a proof, you know, for Calvinism, but it's a metaphorical thing. You know, God didn't like literally harden Pharaoh's
Wait,
heart.
did
Pharaoh,
God? Wait, let me ask you. This is the thing I always bring up with people that say that.
yeah.
Did God harden Pharaoh's heart immediately, or only after Pharaoh's obstinance?
Yeah, it was after his, because, you know, he chose to do this, and if God,
Numerous times. How many chances did God give Pharaoh?
yeah, exactly. And this is like
8?
if this is how you want it to go down, this is what's going to happen, right? I mean, The Prince of Egypt is a great movie, even though like it's not accurate at all.
No,
still-
it's terribly done, but it's a good movie at getting the
Yeah.
heart of
like
the
it gets
matter
the
out.
basics of the story. The one thing I wish Moses had kids, because he did. But the whole thing, like the spirit of the movie.
He was
is done-
married. Of course, he had kids, most likely.
Yeah, no, he did have kids, but like he's just not shown as having kids in like the movie. For whatever reason, that would have been nice. But anyways, I read the notes in the Bible, and it says that point. I'm like, oh wow, that's a really good point. And that's a really good defeater against Calvinism, that God chooses to damn people, because that's something that Calvinists use. There's also that one in like Romans, the potter, I forget the language Paul uses, but uses a pottery analogy, that the pot has no right, or the clay has no right to determine how it's molded by the potter's hand, or something like that. Although I haven't read the notes on that.
Note to Cannon. I don't know. He's never gonna watch this because he's super catty on social media, like super catty. I don't know if you guys have experienced this. But he's very catty. He doesn't like people pushing back on his videos. He's like, I'm not here for you, bro. Like, I don't do what you want to do, bro, and stuff like that. He's super catty. When people have said, hey, we can have a dialogue or we can have a little debate on this issue, he's like, I don't answer to you. It's like, well, dude, we're just asking for a discussion or a debate. Anyways, he's super catty.
I mean, yeah.
Dude, one recommendation: ditch the hat. Ditch the hat, bro. It makes you look bald. And it makes you look like 13. Like he looks a lot older in that screenshot right there.
I think his thumbnails look very AI generated, but I hate the modern YouTube thumbnails where it's just like it's stuff like that. Like it's like, yeah, exactly.
Dude, I keep mine basic. Like if I have a thumbnail at all, it's just like Orthodox person responds, or Twitter and Twitter/X audit. Like I just kept it simple because I'm like, I don't have the time to generate all this BS. And also it costs money. And I'm like, nah, screw that. I ain't gonna.
I miss the old YouTube, man. Like when it was, because all this is about like using the algorithm. It used to be just people making dumb videos in their bedroom. It just is not that anymore.
No, it's all become corporatized. Even like old like timey channels have transitioned completely. The ones that have survived have transitioned, like Smosh. You remember Smosh? How Smosh used to be it used to be just stupid videos between two guys that were just doing like pranks and stupid crap, like, right?
Yeah, it's like they took like a video, they ran it through like Japanese and then back into English, and it was the most ridiculous thing. And
they would just do stupid stuff like that. And now it's like this big corporate thing where they produce this heavily like just generic slop. Slop, and it's liberal as hell. It's like actually, you know what? It'll be funny just to go over that real quick. Hold on. Smosh Pit, I think it's called now. They changed the name, Smosh.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched Smosh in years, but like I remember like I watched like the Food War videos. I mean, I'm 27. I guess you're a bit older than me, but like I'm old enough to remember.
I'm 32.
Yeah. So I mean, you're not that much older than me. So I remember like Stupid Mario Brothers, right? And like Fred Finkelhorn, stuff like that. That was those were the things. Yeah, I'm not sure if it said that Moses had kids or not. I'm probably misremembering that, but yeah, I mean these
Reddit stories. Let me read Reddit stories. I think I watched this because I thought it was kind of funny. He's like, "Can I guess who walked behind me?"
It's like, it's like, I don't know, it's stuff like this. Like I don't like.
It's like okay, this is such low tier.
It's like
slop.
It's like Mr. Beast got successful doing this, and now like everybody has to do this now because like this is
2.9 thousand. What the hell? 2.9. Okay, so yeah, this is what Smosh started out with. I think one of the original creators isn't even involved anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like Anthony and Ian. But yeah, no, they just like, these are just like two high school kids
making stupid videos.
Yeah.
17 years ago. Oh my gosh, I feel so old. Holy crap. Look at that, dude. Look at this janky Dude,
Yeah.
is what? Wait, are these?
it-
Is the original creator still even involved,
I probably not.
or did they hand the keys off? No, that might be. I don't know. I don't know. Ian, yeah, it can't be, can it?
Oh yeah, I
It's-
remember the food battle videos. Like those were so stupid.
15 years ago. So this is when thumbnails started becoming a bigger, like, more important thing. Hot girl singing fail. Like, this thumbnail would not pass nowadays, guy, like, at all. These they have it back. The OOG guys are still on the channel. Really?
Yeah.
They sold their channel, if I remember correct. They have it back. So, but I don't recognize any of these guys in any of their stuff.
No, I remember the food battle videos that they did. And they do them like every year. And it was so stupid. Like, oh, I've got a donut, you've got a hot dog. Let's see who's going to like.
Dude,
swim.
none of these videos, two kidneys, one cleavage, like
Oh.
none of these videos would pass
Yeah.
in their liberal modern slop. And
Oh
I'm
yeah, I
surprised
mean
they
the
haven't
whole
deleted it.
thing with like two girls, one cup, right? That's the start of the reaction video. And like the old iDubbbz made this point that like the idea of a reaction video is that you would have to get the person to watch something like Two Girls, One Cup in order to justify making a reaction video. And
Yeah,
then it
let's
became
not
like,
tell the youngins,
Yeah.
guys,
Don't-
don't look that up.
do not search
Uh,
that up.
That is
Um,
from yesteryear internet, and if
yeah.
you're too young to know about it, don't look it up.
Oh yeah, because
um,
I was young when I looked it up, and I watched maybe like 10 seconds of that video, and then I had to go out.
Well, it was part of the Wild West of the internet. And the Wild West of the internet really did a lot of damage to people.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that being said, Narwhal, oh gosh, Narwhal. What did they sing that? They were like, narwhals, and everyone was obsessed with that. Oh my gosh, I hated that stuff.
Yeah, no, I remember, like,
Magikarp.
I remember
Yeah,
the Legend of Zelda rap.
Look at how low tier these videos are, guys. Like,
Yeah.
just look at, and also his hair. My gosh, that was such emo. Like,
Yeah, but
that is like total, like, early mid 2000s. Like, I'm part of a garage band, bro.
Yeah, well, it's like that was like the Avalon Green, kind of style. She was emo. Being like a skater, like the skater boy. Like, why does everything have to be so complicated?
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to see when they transitioned, because they clearly at one point or another they sold the channel and they
Yeah,
stopped
no.
doing this like low tier slop, and they completely changed to
Yeah, no, but I mean, I remember.
gosh, 2,000 videos, dude. I'm not scrolling through all that. Screw it.
I remember
2,000.
I remember like Fred, and I think Fred was the first like YouTuber that got ruined by the corporate forces.
Fred channel.
Yeah, Fred Finkelhorn. Yeah.
Fred Finkelhorn, I think it
Yeah,
was.
well, actually, no. If you click back, it's the first one.
This
Yeah,
one?
Yeah, the first one with 3 million.
Do they even still do videos? Let's see.
I don't think, like, if you go by oldest.
10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I don't think they make video. But if you go to oldest, you go back up and you search by oldest.
Oh yeah, I remember how annoying he was.
Yeah. So, but it was the whole shtick of his thing is that he talked in a high pitched voice and he acted like this like mentally
Annoying
deranged lunatic, and that was the whole shtick of the thing. It was kind of, I mean, I was young. I was like, I don't know, 8 years old or so when I was watching these videos. I don't know, maybe even actually probably like 15 years ago was like, I don't know, I was like 12, 11 years old or so.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Dude, the internet fried an entire generation. Like,
Yeah, well-
this was the slop that we were, guys, like, honestly, part of me is actually happy that YouTube is like less of this a little bit, because I go back and I cringe. I'm like, we actually I didn't watch Fred. The only like YouTubers I was actually into were like gamer YouTubers that like did walkthroughs. I watched walkthroughs like all day long when I was younger.
I watched a lot of play. I remember watching like Assassin's Creed 2, like the walkthrough for that, and then I got the game.
The only streamer who the only streamer slash content creator that actually has like Blacklight Tango down. Blacklight Revolution is a great game that was just like, it was tragic that it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all that PewDiePie did. Like he just
Oh yeah. I remember watching Review Tech USA when he would talk about like ridiculous news stories while playing Call of Duty multiplayer. That was like our tech, like a guy like Bob's Loblaw. So I watched a lot of gaming content. But yeah, I think
Filthy Frank, dude, Filthy Frank, dude. Like
yeah.
he became a singer now. He's like a big name singer or something.
My best joke is like, don't tell the Joji fans, because that's his name now as a singer, is Joji, about Filthy Frank. Although I never got into watching Filthy Frank back in the day. I watched iDubbbz when I got into iDubbbz around like 17, when he did the Rice Gum Content Cop, and I watched all the old Kickstarter crap, and I watched like, you know, the last couple of Content Cops he's at. Now he's just like he's just a left-wing loon. I mean, he's a simp for his girlfriend, and he's basically like yeah.
Face cam. That was like, hey guys, this is like the next evolution of like
I'm using a face cam.
I'm using an actual face cam. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it, dude. But PewDiePie, what I wanted to say about PewDiePie was he's the one that he actually like transformed his content to like meet where he's at in his life. He doesn't try and like stay in this youthful like ether where he's like, I'm a 40-year-old still acting like I'm 20 or still acting like I'm a teenager, right?
Yeah.
Like what is it? I actually enjoy, it's a guilty pleasure. I actually enjoy watching like D&D and stuff like that, because I used to play a lot of that when I was younger. And D&D, I would love to do a D&D group with a bunch of guys like online, but I just can never find any people that are willing to do it that aren't degenerate like leftist weirdos. So
Yeah.
and but the thing is that a lot of these people never matured to their actual age. PewDiePie actually just eventually was like, yeah, bro, I'm just not making that content anymore. Now look at what he does. This is 90% of what he does is he just does like vlogs about his family.
Yeah,
He became wholesome, bro. Right?
No, he is. And the whole thing is that like he's not bound by the algorithm. He just do what he wants. He's got enough of an audience where he can get like over 1 million views a video. And even if he never uploaded again, he would be set for life with just, you know, the fact that he made a lot of money. He didn't squander it. You know,
no, he invested in what was important to him. He saved what was necessary. He built brands. He still does a little bit of sponsored content here and there just to bring in money, but he doesn't have to work another day in his life if he doesn't want to. And he moved to a country where he's not going to get noticed, where he can live a semi-private life. People aren't going to harass him, and he's happy with it. Him and his wife, they can travel as much as they want, and they can have as many kids as they want, and he doesn't have to worry about it.
I think part of it is that he
is a winner. He won. Out of all of the early creators, the ones that blew up in YouTube, when YouTube really blew up in like 15, 17 years ago, he's the one that actually managed to make something of himself that isn't a child. He's,
you know,
like,
I agree. And no, the thing is, like, it is really sad to see where, like, you look at like someone like where iDubbbz is now. It's just so sad because he's just like on live stream just complaining that everyone isn't a Marxist like him.
Yeah, it's because of his girlfriend. Let's be real.
Yeah, exactly. and I mean, he used to be funny. Like the whole thing is like, you know, he was the happy guy looking ass iDubbbz. Now he's just
even somebody like Asmongold has transformed their content over time. Asmongold does a lot more reaction content to like real, like serious, like thoughts, and he actually gives his takes on serious things. Before, he was doing like, guys, we're going to do a contest on who can dress their WoW character the coolest. And there's going to be a theme and stuff like that. Like, that's what he used to do. And now he's like, I don't always agree with everything he says, but the point is that he's kind of, his content is matured. Same with PewDiePie, same with some of the guys. But like, look at like Smoshpit. They have these colorful, like kid-like aesthetics. and they have this like you're full ass grown adults. None of you are getting married. None of you are having kids. You're all like, you go girl, and like oh, we're gonna play hippopotamus, and like, oh my gosh, can you believe this, Reddit and stuff like that. And that's my best possible gay voice. Okay, so so all these guys are like doing that now, and it's like, you guys haven't matured. You haven't grown up. I'm beyond you. I'm a married man. I'm a married man with a child. I don't have the time to like. I will watch a PewDiePie like vlog because it gives me nostalgic. I get nostalgic about my own family life, and it's like, I want that, right? Like, I want to have a family. I want to have kids. I want this stuff, right? That's why PewDiePie resonates with people still. He may not get the amount of views he used to, but he still resonates, and he still makes news. Like, people still like will be like, what is PewDiePie up to? They don't need to, but they do, because his content has matured with his audience. Even if it means he doesn't have to cater to children anymore with flashy stuff to distract them all the time. So anyways, that's my ranting and raving. Let's see here. Yeah, he hasn't even streamed in like over a year. 4 years ago prior to that. Well, on YouTube. I don't know if he still streams on Twitch. He probably does. But the point is that he's way beyond like caring about this stuff anymore, right? And I think that's the thing that we need to learn, is that this is something my generation needs to learn, and this is just my advice to you guys. Gaming is fine. Having some time off and enjoying it is fine, but eventually you just need to get beyond it and like grow up after it. Like, your life cannot revolve around it. It's too much. You're going to get too busy. You're not going to prioritize things properly, and you're never going to grow up and mature. Doing it occasionally as something that you do to like de-stress is fine. But when it's something that is like constantly this main aspect, like this is what, oh, I can't wait to get all this done so that I can game. That's wrongly minded. You should be like, I want to get all this done so I can go spend time with my family. I can get all this done so I can go do XYZ thing. I want to get all this done so I can pursue XYZ thing, so I can get the liturgy, so I can do, those are the things that need to start taking priority in your life. And they should be a priority early on, but a lot of us didn't grow up with that. And so my advice is get to that right now. Get to that right now. Start just like weaning off it a bit. Just like, instead of trying to game all the time, maybe find some other things to do. Write something. Do a blog. Yeah. Who cares? Just something besides that. Find something productive to do. And I think that's the most you can do.
I find. I mean, I like to play video games, but in and of itself, like having like the backlog and worrying about beating games like that in itself is a stressor that I really don't need. Like I like to play games. I still do from time to time. I think
do it with some buddies, like maybe once a week, or maybe even just a couple times a month. Just meet up with some guys and be like, "Hey guys, we're all gonna get on COD and we're gonna play, or we're all gonna."
I'm more to do always been like more of a single player guy. So like I got games. Yeah, that's my thing.
And that's great. De-stress with that. Enjoy the story. It's no different than if you were to take the time to read a book. But reading a fantasy book or reading a book like The Lord of the Rings shouldn't be something that you prioritize over what? Scriptures, over family.
And the thing is that like, there's I've got like all these books I want to read. I got stuff I want to write. I've got like, there's more important things than like entertainment. Of course, I'm in a very like, oh no, I'm a very like lazy person. Like I sit at the computer and I just like, I'm on YouTube, just like hours go by. It's time to go to bed. And I'm like, I got to go to work. And then like on the weekend, like, I'm shopping, I'm doing errands. Like I went on a road trip to a monastery, and I didn't, bring any game consoles with me. It was more important to like go on that pilgrimage than it was to, I could have sat on my butt and just played like, games all day, but I didn't want to do that. I was very glad I went to the monastery, and I want to do more stuff like that on the weekends, like do like, road trips like that, rather than like spending the time, playing games, like doing stuff like hiking. Like it's an all day thing to go on a hike. And I don't really, play games when like I'm doing that. Like I'm actually out in nature. I went on a Sub-Zero hike a couple of weeks ago, almost froze to death, but I made it by the grace of God. Because I was out for like 8 hours. I did like 12 miles. And it was like below zero the entire time. So
Yeah, I think that like it's just like you really this is what you need to see is that PewDiePie at one point or another after he got married decided that the priorities in his life had to be different. And I think that's the thing that all young men need to realize is that your priorities really do radically shift once you actually get married. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up the stream. It's been almost 3 hours. So
yeah, no, I got to go to bed.
Yeah.
'Cause
So
I'm on-
God bless you, Joker. Thanks for jumping on. Feel free to jump on anytime, brother. And everyone else, thanks for hopping in. Thank you for the super chatters. Thank you for all of you people. You guys are a blessing. God bless. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.